And good morning to all of you here. Join us here for a special live of the FHS Football Show here this morning as we get the table set for the specially called FHA Board of Directors meeting coming up here at 11 a.m. And good to see everybody on here, and we'll bring up the chat here as we go, as we're coming on. So if y'all want to pop a comment in the chat, and we'll drop it up, and we've got the chat screen right there with everything. And this is going to be an interesting morning, and a lot that's gonna on the docket here. So I say get your drinks, whatever my drink is, a Celsius right now. Get the snacks and everything. And Kevin Fisher, good to see you on here. And we're gonna set the table here, but first we want to thank our partners that make this happen for us each and every show, and our loyal partners, including Jaguars PREP, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Foundation, Teknovate Consulting Partners, ScoreStreama, the Florida High School 7v7 Association, NFHS Network, BoxOut Sports, and FirstDown PlayBook. We appreciate all of them, what they've done here for our as partners here, and bring shows like this, including the Florida HS Football Show here on FloridaHSFootball.com and the FloridaHSFootball.com YouTube channel. And if you're also, and this is gonna also be recorded, and it'll be put on our podcasting platforms as well, including iHeartRadio, Amazon, Apple, and Spotify. So we definitely appreciate everybody joining us here today. All right, let's kind of get the table set here. I'm going to bring up some things here as we go along here. I'm going to bring it up what the agenda items are going to be. I'm keeping an eye on the FHA YouTube channel to see when they put the live stream up. They haven't done it. Usually don't put anything up until right as it's go time happens. So today's meeting is a virtual board meeting. So the board outside the FHA staff, no board members are going to be at the Gainesville office. Otherwise, we'd be at the Gainesville office ourselves. Since we're not too far away from the FHA office, we could be right there and be there present. But that's not the case today. Everything's virtual, so that's why we're doing a live as they're doing the board meeting, because two of the things that are on the agenda include one, dealing with the football classifications in rural and 1A, consolidating rural into Class 1A, and the other one is independent school participation outside the ranks. Excuse me. Boy, I'll tell you what, this cold weather is not for me. So if you're dealing with this cold weather like probably most of us are here in the state of Florida, yeah, you know what I mean. Okay, so let's get the agenda set, table set. Oh man, whoa! I don't know if the heat kicks back on again or something or what, but man, it is kicking my butt right this second here. All right, so let's kind of look at what we've got here in terms of oh man, I'm just really going. I mean, and this is the unvirtual the side of going live and doing this live is sometimes it just happens. Anyways, as we do this, let's go ahead and talk about the first agenda item, which is the consolidating rural classifications in the 1A. And I'll bring that up here on the screen here. I'm going to start with what the item is, and then we'll go with that here. So the first item is this one. Football classifications and 1A. This is the detailed information. So there's three parts to this detailed information. The rationale and impact, and the executive director's recommendation, which that'll be the second part, and then the rationale and impact. It will be the third part. All right, so detailed information here. To the best of our knowledge, there are 16 of the 38 FHA member schools that qualify for the rural class committed to participate in the state series. FHA policy 12.3.2.1 requires there must be a minimum of 24 schools committed in order to have the rural class. Class 1A has 34 schools committed to participate in the FHA state series. The enrollment maximum for rural and 1A are not far off. Enrollment range: rural 111 to 617, 1A 98 to 502. This is the information. So what is the executive director's recommendation? Well, from executive director Craig Damon, move the rural schools committed to participate in the FHA state series into Class 1A. This would require a realignment of Class 1A, creation of a couple of new districts, and the addition of area teams to existing districts. So a lot here on the table to talk about here with this one, and then the rationale and impact with this one. Combining the two classes would increase the number of schools participating in the FHA series in Class 1A to approximately 50 schools. This change aligns the association in compliance with FHA policy 12.3.2.1. So we've got that one right there. So the next one that we're going to talk about, we're going to go ahead and we'll talk about what each the two items that we're focused. There's 3 items on the agenda. The third one's dealing with I think it's EKG form. It's a form from the Sports and Medicine Advisory. That's not our focus today. It's just a form that's outside of what we cover. So we're not going to talk about that because that's the third agenda item. So the second agenda item that we're going to bring up here in just a moment here involves independent school participation outside the regular season. Obviously, a lot of the teams that have been announced by the Sunshine State Athletic Association going to the Atlantic League, some going to the 11-man. There's apparently been the FHA is basically saying, hey, if you're going to go to the Sunshine State Athletic Association, you need to basically remove yourself from football membership or whatever sport membership it is. Remove yourself from that if you're going to participate in the state championship over there, because you can't keep full member status over here as an independent football program because you follow under our rules if you could declare independence at the same time playing in the Sunshine State Athletic Association as their member over there for football. So what this is going here, what we're going to pop this up here is this particular item. All right. Oh, that's the wrong. There we go. All right. Detailed information. The association permits member schools to exercise an option of independence rather than competing for a state championship series. Historically, this option was designed to accommodate specific circumstances. Over time, the option of independence has evolved into a general choice available to any member school, independent school, member school. There should be a period in me telling that. Independent schools may elect to participate in conferences or leagues outside the association. However, they remain subject to the association established regular season dates and applicable bylaws. Recently, concerns have arisen as a former league has reorganized into a separate governing association with its own membership requirements, bylaws, and governance structure, which are referring to the Sunshine State Athletic Association, by the way, in this. Schools choosing to remain independent within our association while simultaneously competing for championships under another association may be required to comply with conflicting rules, policies, or eligibility standards. This creates the potential for confusion, inconsistent application of the bylaws, and challenges in enforcement for both organizations. So that's the detailed information. What is the executive director's recommendation? Well, is recommended the association requires schools to amend their membership status to member sport for any sport in which they choose to compete under the governance of another athletic association or organization. And additionally, the FHA will establish an independent league. Any school exercising the option for independence may maintain full membership if they choose to compete in the FHA Independent League. I got some things about this independent league. I feel like this is crazy, but we're going to get through the rest of this here, and then we'll discuss a few thoughts and say good morning to everybody that's joining us here so far. Additionally, the FHA will, this is what they're saying. That's what the executive director is recommending. The rationale and impact requiring schools to hold member by a sport status when competing under another association provides clarity, consistency, and fairness in governance. It eliminates the expectation that a school can simultaneously comply with two potential conflicting sets of bylaws, eligibility standards, and administrative requirements. Establishing an independent league under the FHA would provide opportunities for play beyond the regular season for qualifying teams without requiring an amendment to their membership status. So basically, they're saying, hey, if you're going to go to the SSA for football, you need to go member by sport status. Well, for a lot of schools, the way I'm understanding it, they like to keep their full membership status for all sports, because if you go by what the FHA bylaws and policies say, if you become a member by sport status, meaning that, okay, you're not going to, you mean when you're a full member, that means all your sports are going to be under the governance of the FHA. The moment you go by member sport, member by sport status, that means you drop football and that means all the other sports become because you moved your football over to SSAA, you become a member by sports school, which means basically your volleyball, everything's now by sports status with the FHA. And at that point, schools lose access to being able to have representation, maybe on the board of directors, any of the advisory committees, the representative assembly, nominations for awards like academic awards and other stuff basically go out the door. So that's what we're looking at. So that's what we're looking at here, basically, with this. So to set the table, basically, is what's about to happen here. So kind of keeping an eye on what the FHA is going to do here. Waiting for the live stream to come up. Again, the FHA doesn't usually put the live stream up until like a couple minutes beforehand and everything. So, and dealing with that. But good morning to you, Brian Caps. Good morning, Christopher W. Good to see you on here. And yes, I'm kind of talking fast because we've got to get a lot of information out here before the board starts. But we'll kind of go over it. We'll talk about it as we go through and listen to the board here as they talk about this. Again, this is a virtual board meeting. Good morning, Jonathan Ferris. Good to see you on here. Again, we got a lot to basically digest here, what's going to happen here. The second item is going to really be interesting to watch with the independent schools, because depending on how the vote goes, what happens to the Florida High School Athletic Association? I mean, not the Florida High School Athletic Association. What happens with the Sunshine State Athletic Association? What's going to happen there with them? Because I get the feeling that a lot of schools may not want to lose their full membership status. But we'll see with the vote. Good morning, Ricky. Good morning to you. Good morning. And Corey, I know. Hey, Corey Davis from the Palaca Daily News joining us here. And then Hal King. Good morning. Hello from Hilliard. Corey, you say that doesn't bother interlocking, but the question is what really comes down to it, for the school. Does the school really, do they miss out nominating their student athletes for academic awards and other stuff that the FHA offers? Because that is going to be the big question. I would say that, each school is going to have to basically analyze what they want to do with this, and how, depending on how this vote goes. This vote could go several different directions. Mid-Bay News, good morning to you as well from Northwest Florida. Yes, Christopher Saul out there at Mid-Bay News. Give them a follow. Good place for stuff there in Okaloosa County, in the surrounding Panhandle region. Okay, I'm kind of keeping an eye. I'm looking up here on my screens. I'm kind of keeping a refresh because it usually goes under the live. It has not gone live yet. Waiting for it to pop up here. Let's see, just to make sure that the FHA hasn't changed anything on us, because that sometimes happens at the last second. But as far as it says, yes, the YouTube channel. So I mean, I've got it sitting here on their live channel page. I'm just waiting to see if it's going to come up here yet or not. Usually everything, since it's going to be virtual, it's going to be through Zoom. So, and usually they just output the live stream from Zoom as well. So no, Corey, 200 schools won't be leaving the FHA because there's I've had some conversations with some people based on this, and the way I understand it is that a lot of schools are not going to risk going member by sports status. That's just not going to happen, because they lose access to their home campus. They lose access. There's a lot at stake with this particular item. There's a lot at stake with this particular item. So, Bummer Cloud, so are they going to put all the private schools in the same district? After considering what people have seen with what happened in Alabama in the last week, when they decided to put the private schools in their own classifications and the public schools in their separated, a lot of people are calling for that down here. But the problem is we got a unique situation here in the Sunshine State in terms of we got open enrollment. Alabama doesn't have an open enrollment. So that's the big problem. That's the big problem we have here, is that Alabama doesn't have the open enrollment stuff like we do. Georgia doesn't have the open enrollment stuff like we do. They also, when it comes to transfers, they put multipliers on you. We do not. And a lot of coaches said, hey, put a multiplier. Hey, you get so many transfers, you get a multiplier, you move up a classification. Kevin Fisher says, does this change how the FHA currently handles schools playing in SSA, but FHA for all other sports? Actually, this could impact not just football. It can impact other sports. So there's a lot there, and I'm interested to see how this discussion goes. Billy Rayberg, hello, good morning from Bradford County, tornado country. And Bradford still has not announced a new head coach yet. Some things kind of going on over there. Kind of curious to see what's going to happen there. We've heard some rumors about Bradford County, but what's going to happen over at Bradford? But we'll hold that for that right in a second. Okay, see if they've popped the live because it's 1 minute. Yeah, it's 1 minute past. Let me see if it's on this other side here. Yeah, it has not gone live yet at all, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Chris, is there a list of schools who have left the FHA during the offseason? There is. There's a lot, and it's, some people say, I say make it all or nothing, but the problem here with that is you can't make it all or nothing because the FHA has to deal with state statutes, and state statute says schools are allowed to join by member sport status or full status. So they can't just say full all or nothing, basically, is what they can't do that anymore. All right. I don't know what's going on, why the YouTube channel, what's going on, why they have not popped it up yet. I'm trying to see. Yeah, they have not gone live yet. So I'm not exactly sure what's up here, but we'll but I'm not surprised we have a delayed start here. So, but Ricky Callahan says, I think some schools have made premature decisions about moving over to the new organization. I can't say yes or no to that. That's your opinion on that one, but we'll have to see what's going to happen here. There's a lot that's going to happen. I've talked to people about this. I've talked to people about the merging of rural and the Class 1A. I got to say this: if rural is merging the Class 1A today, I can tell you, I feel like my gut feeling says that there will never be a rural classification again for football if this happens today. Because the whole hand's been shown at this point. Basically, you're saying, hey, we created the rural classification. You didn't want to stay in it. We're gone. You left. And now the FHA is saying, hey, well, because we got to merge this, and y'all. And say these schools come back in at some point. They could say, hey, you know what? You play in one of the 6 classifications and that's it. That's pretty much where we're going to be. We would be at. That's what I feel like the FHA would tell schools. Playing one of the classifications, we're not going to create a rural classification anymore. I have a feeling this also may impact rural classification for the other team sports. Because if they eliminate it here, my thought and feeling is, do they look at keeping it a rural classification for the rest of the sports? That's a big question. Big question. Okay, so the FHA has still not gone live. I've been checking everything on my end to see what's going on here. And hi, Karen. I know my friend Karen has been blowing up my phone here, so. So I'm gonna check. I'm just gonna check on my app, on the YouTube app, on my phone, just to make sure, because we're gonna see what's going on here. I'm just gonna double check and see if it's just we're having it's a more of a issue or anything. We'll see here. Okay, nothing is showing live here. So Because they said it was going to start at 11 now, unless they've changed the time. Yeah, 11 a.m. Eastern, Thursday, January 29th. So the question now is, does something else come up that we are unaware of that has not been published yet? So this is really, really interesting to see what's going on here. Let's see if we get anything. Nope. Nothing, no live yet. Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to check and see if there's anything on the socials here as well, just to make sure, because it's definitely trying to see. Yeah, this is getting interesting that we're not seeing anything in terms of the live stream up from the FHSAA. This is definitely going to be an interesting meeting once they get going. Maybe part of me tells me they're wondering if they're having some tech issues, because that sometimes happens, and we'll see here. Because the FHSAA has it on their YouTube channel, they have the notifications disabled, so there's no way for us to know when the notification automatically pop up saying that they've gone live, like our YouTube channel. By the way, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can click subscribe and hit that notification bell when we go live or post new content on our YouTube channel at Florida HS Football. You definitely can get those notifications. So I'm having to keep doing a refresh on the FHSAA YouTube channel, and still nothing has come up. And Corey says, since December, the FHSAA has been very quiet. That's you're right. There's been some things that have been quiet in what I've seen. Yeah, it would be nice if we could get, hey, Mike Rideout from Main Street Daily News in the prep zone in the Gainesville area, popping up in the chat here. And it would be nice if we could get a little heads up of what's going on and why. And it's not exactly sure what's up. I'm going to try to message a couple people that I can see if we can find out what's going on here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pop a text message in and find out if there is a delay to the find out here. So hopefully I'll get an answer here soon as to what's going on. Hopefully somebody will answer me, because this has got a lot of people on the edge of their seats here. I just say, get the popcorn out, get whatever you need out, because this is going to be an interesting day. Hold on 1 second. I've got a phone call coming in. Let me mute this real quick. Okay, that was actually FHSAA Executive Director Craig David himself calling me. So they're actually having a problem connecting to YouTube. So it's not wanting to connect. So they're having a tech issue. So I kind of assumed that may have been what the issue was. So we definitely got that. We're hopefully we'll hear something soon as to when it goes up. We're waiting for it to go up, and the Zoom, apparently they're having some issues. So, and just got some messages. So I know a lot of people are wanting to know what's going on, wanting to see what's going on, and we'll see what happens here. Tons of teams. I know there's been a ton of teams. Again, this is what's gonna hold on 1 second. So tons of teams leaving for FHSAA for SSA. Yes, there has been a ton of teams that have been announced for the SSA, but that second item is going to be the key critical question as to what going to happen. Well, we'll see how that vote goes. And let's see. And then Mike Rideout just asked, when is the deadline for a school to join the SSA for 2026 football season? They haven't necessarily put a deadline, and I think because part of now, I think they're going to the deadline. I think they'll put a deadline at some point. It's just the deadline. I think they're waiting to see what kind of happens here today before any movement happens on a deadline. So, all right, I just got another. Okay, they're also making. Okay, so I just got another message. They're making sure that the board members. Okay, so they're just waiting. So, Josh, will the FHA be able to get out of the contract with the Villages to host World State Championship? That is a good question. I think. Well, here's the thing, and that's Noah Ram. I think from the Gainesville Sun there, popping in the chat there. I gotta say this. I think the Villages is going to bid here on all of the state championships after next coming school year. FIU has it one more year. The Villages also has one more year. I don't know if that's going to be a thing. I think with the Villages, I think the FHA probably has a bit more flexibility because it's a school, not a major venue like FIU Pitbull Stadium. Then this. It's hard to really say what's going to happen there with that agreement with the World State Championship at the Villages. It's going to happen to say what's going to happen with FIT. Does the FIT kind of go away here at this particular point? That's the next key thing. So Jonathan Vera says, does this affect rural and SSAA? Oh, it's going to affect rural Class 1A, SSAA may affect Class 2A, may affect Class 3A. There may be more ripple effects than what meets the eye, so to speak, at this particular moment. We're going to find out here in a little bit once the board meeting gets going, once they go live, and we talk about it. And they talk about it. Corey Davis says more teams are likely leaving. Rest in peace, FIT. Oh, well, I mean, we got the open division still on the docket, too. There's still a lot of we don't even know exactly necessarily what the open division is going to look like yet. There's been many discussions, many proposals floated out there. It's like, oh, we're going to do 8 teams double elimination, or make it 16 teams. And if they were to use this to straight up rankings from this year, from the regular season to seed the open division, there would have been teams like St. Thomas Aquinas and Chaminade Madonna that wouldn't have made the top 8. So would the open division even solve anything? That's the big thing. But I also think in some aspects, and I'll provide these aspects. I think in some aspects, decisions that are made here today, and maybe some of the stuff that comes on the February board of directors agenda, we'll get that in a few weeks. I kind of think that there is going to be some ripple effects for the other sports potentially because of what's happened with football. I'm not saying it could. I'm saying it could. I'm not saying it will. Could there be ripple effects for other team sports? There's a possibility. So I'm just going to keep checking. Maybe they'll give me a green light as saying, hey, they up. Here we go, and it looks like we have got a. All right, yeah, it is on YouTube. They're on. They're saying it's on. They're thinking it's not on, but it's actually on. So give me 1 second. I'm going to share the screen here. Yeah, they've got it on. They're saying it's streaming. They're saying they don't think they hear anything, but we do hear it. I do hear it on my side, so I'm going to bring it in here. Let me see if I can go ahead.
Oh,
All right, there we go.
Would-
All right, I'm going to drop the comment
Isla?
screen. Actually, maybe we don't need the comment screen. We're going to drop the comment screen because it's going to overlay on some of the things. But we'll bring up some of the comments and stuff as we go through here. We'll do it a little differently as we do. We'll pop the comments on the stage as we go through this.
Because this is the whole meeting, though. If I make mine, then.
So we're about to see and hear what's going on here. So one of the FHA board members, Mark Schusterman, actually traveled all the way up to Gainesville for this. So that, unless he was already in the area for something else, because a lot of the board members are going to be on. So they've got the one screen. We're waiting to see what's going to happen here, but as you see, that's the camera that's actually in the main conference area with the FHA board of directors where they usually meet. So the long table around that's actually where the board usually sits at during typical normal board meetings. So the rest of the members will be popping up on the screen as they get ready to go here. So,
muted, it looks like. Yeah, that would be good.
Let me see if the
Yeah, good morning. Again, thank everyone for your patience.
there we
We
go.
have some technical difficulties, but now we're ready to proceed with today's emergency board meeting. So Superintendent Chambers, as president, you can now call the meeting to order.
Okay.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Now we're ready to proceed.
Yeah. Okay. We got.
Yes.
We can't hear anybody.
Was that yes to me?
Yes, sir. That's yes to you. We can.
All right. Then I would like to welcome everybody to this board of directors meeting that was called. It is 11:16 Eastern Standard Time. And now this meeting will come to order. And Mr. Damon, if you'd please take the roll.
Ms. Bayless,
Here.
Mr. Bell,
Here.
Mr. Berryhill,
Here.
Mr. Burns,
Here.
Mrs. Severa. Okay. Superintendent Chambers got you, Mr. Ford. Mr. Ford, Mr. Johns,
Here.
Mr. Kenner,
Here.
All right. So
Mr. Schusterman is present here in person with us here in the office. Mr. Savidio,
Here.
Mr. Shirley,
Here.
and Mrs. Tamarga.
Here.
all right.
All right, President Chambers, we have 10 of the 11, actually 12 of the 13 board members present for
All
today.
of the 13 are present. So
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate that. And again, I would like to welcome everybody to today's meeting. I would like to say up here in Northwest Florida, when you woke up, it was literally freezing. So you all down south, hopefully it's not as cold. But I'd like to start with our first order of business, which is to approve the board of directors called business meeting agenda for Thursday, January 29th, 2006. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Ricky Bell.
So we have a motion, Ricky Bell. Do we have a second?
Can we turn it on?
Second.
We have a second, and just for those, I can't necessarily tell who's making the first or second, but we do have a second. And any discussion? And seeing none, let's call for a vote. All in favor?
Do we raise, aye?
Aye.
okay.
Good. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like it carries 12-0.
She knows they know we turn now.
All right. So the agenda has been approved.
Is there anything that we need to say, Mr. Damon, just in terms of logistics?
Cameras on too.
Yes, just one quick announcement. Members of the board, I will send out an email after we finish today, sharing some good news. Our partnership with Suncoast Credit Union, we're working with them, entered in a partnership with them earlier this year, at the beginning of the school year. And they have put together a platform for a financial literacy program that they had in place, where now it is housed on our website. So our student athletes and parents that are interested in financial literacy can take part in that program. There's various courses online that each of the individuals can take to better educate themselves on financial literacy, especially in today's world of with NIL, whether it's at the high school level or the next level collegiately. So that was something that I know was important that as board members, you shared with us as a priority. Department of Education, State Board of Education also asked that that be something that we put in place to try to help educate our students. But just want to let you know that as of yesterday, it is live on our website where our students and parents can take the opportunity to go through the program to better educate themselves as far as financial literacy is concerned.
All right. And then just one question in terms of when we vote for a motion. So I don't necessarily see some thumbs up. So I'll just call for a motion and we'll all say aye. And then I'll come back and say any opposed. And then we'll just go from there. But I can't necessarily see on the Zoom.
Yeah, I wish they could.
And to make it easier, Superintendent Chambers, I will just do roll call when we get to the action item. So that way we'll know exactly how each person votes on the items.
Perfect. So then I'll turn it over to you when it's called for a vote.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
apparently they got
Perfect.
something on the stream that's
And if possible, if you could everyone could turn their video on just so that
The
our
people on
viewers can see.
YouTube, yeah, they're wanting to see.
And I'll just say from my computer,
there we
I do
go.
not have the option for a video for some reason.
I think we may need to move the
Yeah.
attendees panelists.
Yeah, I could promote them all to panelists. You should be able to now.
Yeah, they put them on as panelists, which you have to do in Zoom in order to bring everybody in. Okay, so there we go. We're starting to get everybody to come in. This is good. Now, I guess they finally heard us
That
about
works
it.
better. I didn't have the option before.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening is that they weren't a panelist on there. So now they're coming in.
There you go. That seems to be much better. It said we were promoted, so that's a good thing. All right. So with that being the case, if it's appropriate, Mr. Damon, should I move forward?
Yes, sir. We can move forward.
All right. The next item is for the football classifications combining rural and 1A. And Mr. Damon, this is your item.
So yeah, this is
Again, thank you, board members, for being a part today of this meeting. Want to bring up to you the rural class in football. Due to our numbers and try to be in compliance with policy 12.3.2.1, a lot of our rural schools have chose to go independent this year. And the last time I sent out a request to see how many were committed to state series, we only had 16 of our rural schools that were committed to the rural class. Our policy requires that we must have 24 in order to offer the rural class. So with that, to be in compliance with policy, those 16 schools or schools that want to be part of state series would need to move into a class. So I'm just asking the board for your blessings to move those 16 schools that want to be part of state series that are currently members of the rural class into the 1A class, in which we will place them in a district. It may cause us to add some new districts. Right now we have 8 districts in the class 1A. There's about 33
districts? Wait a
schools that
second.
are
Hold on.
committed to
There was
1A. So adding these 16 will bump
That's
that
new.
class
See,
up
not
to
post
approximately 50
anything showing
schools
that.
and gives us the flexibility to expand to possibly 10, maybe 11, 12 districts as opposed to of the 8 that we have right now. So it's sort of needing your blessing, but per policy, we have to put them somewhere. And just wanted to make sure I ran that by you before we actually made that move.
And is that the conclusion of your
That's
remarks for now?
Yes, sir. And also to share, on Tuesday, the 27th, I went up to Chipley. I met with a group of some of the rural school coaches in person. There was about 10 to 15 that showed up in person, and probably another 20 to 25 was on a Zoom call. So shared everything I'm sharing with you today. I shared it with them to get feedback, and they understood in order to have the opportunity to compete in the state series that they had to be placed in classification just due to our policy does not allow us to continue with the rule class in football with only 16 schools.
Yeah, this is
Appreciate that, Mr. Damon. And before we call for a motion, there might be some discussion or some comments that may need to be had at this time.
yeah.
I
There's,
have a comment,
Yes, sir.
question. This is just, I understand we're talking about rural, and we have a lot of rural teams leaving and going to the SSA because some of the competition has gotten too stiff. My proposal, or what I would like to throw out there, rather than lose all of these rural teams to the SSA, why don't we make a policy that says if one of these rural schools gets more than 5 transfers in a year, they go to 1A. And the rest of them stay in rural. So you're going to move 3 or 4 teams to 1A, the ones that get all the transfers.
ooh, there's a big problem with that because
Rather than lose
gotta do
all
that
the
for
other rural
classifications.
teams
you
to
need
the SSA. They could stay within the rural classification if we just move the ones that were causing the issues, rather than lose everybody else. Does that make sense?
If I can share comments I've had with the rural schools, some of them are embracing going to 1A because it will provide a district for them. Comments that I received was that right now, well, in our past structure with the rural class, there was nothing to play for if you're not a state contender. Going to 1A, being placed in a district with teams allowed them the possibility of winning a district championship, also competing for a regional championship if they were good enough. And if just by chance they were a state contender, that state contender was there. So some of the schools that were looking to go elsewhere are sort of happy about being placed in a district because now with those 3 or 4 schools or 5 schools in their district they compete against, at the beginning of the year, they can tell their players that if we win these 4 games, we're a district champ. So they're competing for something. If we're good enough to make the playoffs and we beat the teams in our region, we can be a regional champ. Where in the past with the rural class, it was either you played for the state championship or you really played for nothing because there weren't any districts or regions.
a lot of rural schools.
Some of the schools that
districts. Why
again
didn't you
was
bring them back?
considering or that it applied elsewhere, welcome the opportunity to be placed in class 1A with schools of similar size because the enrollment gap is very similar between the two, and just welcome the opportunity to have something to play for. And Mr. Johns, I know you were at the meeting. I don't know if you want to chime in a little bit to share some of the thoughts that you've heard or comments you've heard from some of the rural schools in your area.
Yeah, I don't want to overstep Mr. Bell if he had anything else before I said anything.
I do have something else.
Okay.
Can I say it?
Go ahead.
It's my understanding when we started the rural classification, it was because the small community schools would win their district, but then when they moved on up, they would have to play larger private schools, not larger private schools, but private schools in metro or suburban areas that had a lot more kids to pick from. It seemed like when I went to Tallahassee and played in North Florida Christian, and went to Jacksonville, they played these Christian schools that had this whole communities to get kids from. However, in the small little Washington counties and the Calhoun County, they only had a certain area of kids they could pick from. So they said they were put at a disadvantage. So that's what started the rural classification. Am I not right there?
Yeah,
And those schools that were the similar size in these big towns, they were in 1A. And that worked good for a little while. Everybody was happy. The rural played schools that were like them, and they didn't have to compete against the dominating North Florida Christians or whatever. Well, now some of these rural schools have started getting transfers from out of county, far-reaching counties. And so that has kind of thrown the rural in the problem, because they say, wait a minute, now we got these schools now that are out. I'm not going to say recruiting kids, but that's what they're doing, and becoming dominant forces in rural. my suggestion is to take those schools that get X amount of transfers and move them to 1A and leave rural alone. But that's just a thought. Go ahead, Mr. John.
Mr. Chair, may I speak?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, Mr. Bell is correct as far as, how rural started. No one, I don't know, there's other than Elijah Bell, I don't know if anybody's ever fought any harder for the rural classification than I have to try and save it. So I got a couple notes here that I just wanted to go on record, then I'm going to quit talking. But I understand why we are here today. I understand why we are where we are. People leaving has caused us to be in this situation. Choices that have been made by schools that have decided to possibly go somewhere else. That's why we are where we are. I also understand that those people have chosen to leave mainly because of the changes that have taken place over the years within the rural class that has been caused by transfers and not the normal transfer, but when we're getting 15, 16 kids in a year, that's a habitual problem. So I blame the coaches. I blame the coaches that have put us in this situation that are no longer playing with their kids, that are going out and doing things that I don't believe should be done. And that's why we're here. So really nobody has anybody to blame but the coaches that have been involved in that. And that's why that people have made the decisions they've made. It took about 20 years to get this to take place. And unfortunately, it can be ended here in about 5 minutes. And that's a shame. My concern is this. Football has caused this issue. Okay, not volleyball, not basketball, not baseball. Football has caused this issue. We are where we are because of football schools wanting to pull out, not baseball people, not basketball. They're not going anywhere. They're satisfied. My concern is, what are the far-reaching effects of this? If football is absorbed into 1A, is it for is it a suspension of rural so that maybe we can give teams an option, which we'll talk about later today, which I think is important. Teams need an option other than getting beat by 60 with their own kids that have transferred somewhere else. They need an option. The independent league that Craig's going to talk about gives them an option. So are we talking about a suspension of the football, rural football, to give that a chance to build and give teams an option so maybe they would be willing to come back? Or are we talking about scratching it from the policy manual or for the bylaws? Because my fear is that the next step is now we're going to unduly punish girls basketball, girls volleyball, baseball, girls sports that have tremendously benefited from the rural classification, far more than football has benefited. The other sports have benefited more. That's my biggest scare of this. I understand where we are. I understand we can't have a classification with 12 schools. Okay, so I completely understand that. I just want to be on record with what my fears are moving forward. Craig is right. You've got a group of coaches that are left, that they want mandatory district play. They want to be in a district. They want to have something to play for. They want those things. Okay, so going into 1A is not a problem for some of them. Some of those are the reason that we're having to go to 1A. Some of them are byproducts of schools that don't want their teams playing in another association, which I understand. Don't want to split their programs. I understand that. But so he's right about that. But there are a bunch of other schools that did not feel like they had another option. And I hope today we're going to give them another option. But that's the things that scare me the most. And that's what I wanted to be on record about, is if we do this, I beg of us to consider that we are going to just suspend this, do what we need to do right now, and try to give, quote, an independent league or give an option for these teams that we can get them to come back, and then maybe be able to have the rural classification. Because I would really, it would really be a sad day if we spent 5 minutes today and we ended something that took 20 plus years to put together, not just for football, but for everyone. And so that's my concern. Thank you.
Any comments for that, Mr. Damon?
Yes, and Mr. Johns, as I stated at the meeting on Tuesday, that is not my intention to end football and rule. It's to pause for a little bit, and I shared with the guys there, like, we need to collaborate to find a way to fix it so we can get it back going with the next classification cycle. Because my fear I shared with the group was that other coaches in other sports in the rural class are calling our office and asking what's going on with football, because there are some schools that are fully state series in basketball, baseball, softball, for example, that can't field a team or field a team with kids that can't even catch a ball, that are in districts and in the state series in the rural class in those sports, and they win 2 games a year. They go 2-20 and so forth. So if they see this is the trend, that they can go independent and go and get away from being in a district, we may be facing this issue 3-4 years from now in basketball or baseball or softball, where we don't have enough teams. So the challenge is to find a way to keep rule in place, pause it for now, for this cycle, and work on finding some structure so that it will be successful to bring it back with the next classification cycle.
And if I could clarify, yes, Craig, I didn't mean to, I hope I didn't sound like I was saying that you didn't discuss that, because you did. You laid that groundwork, and you've been adamant from the beginning that you don't want to see it go away. So yeah, I mean, I didn't mean to insinuate that you were trying to get rid of it. My fear is that it could go away. But at the end of the day, guys, is if everybody starts leaving, then the rural must not be important enough to save. I just want to make sure we don't punish every sport because football coaches have made these decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. Mr. Berryhill?
Thank you. Pardon my voice. It's baseball season, and my team needs to do a little bit better so I can keep my voice. So I just feel like we have another item that absolutely impacts this item based on what we've received.
Yeah.
And so
item 2 is going to impact.
I think we could absolutely move the rural that's left to 1A. But the next item is going to make schools make a decision on whether or not they want to be a full member or not. And so if they want to be a full member, then a lot of stuff could change in football, because really that's what we're talking about. But the full membership thing, I think, is going to be the thing that sways us one way or the other with numbers, especially in this conversation with football. So I just wanted to make that statement because a lot of football coaches may want to make a choice, but their school administrators may want to make a different choice. And then, at least at my school and the schools that I know, school administrators are going to make the decision for the school. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Berryhill. Mr. Bell?
I don't know if I explained it well enough earlier, but to me, if we isolate the teams that have the transfers and keep the rural, that moves, it's not many schools, it's probably 3 or 4.
Multipliers. Hello.
All these transfers, move them to the 1A and leave the rural alone. So you still have a rural, you still have a 1A. You don't have to dissolve the rural.
What about the 3A school with the transfers?
All right, I've got an answer for that, but I'm waiting on my turn. I've got an answer for 1A to 7A or 6A transfers. I've got an answer for that, and I'll be glad to explain it whenever y'all give me the opportunity.
I appreciate that, Mr. Bell. Any other comments?
I'll address the 1A to 6A if you want me to right now.
Go ahead.
Okay, because I'm understanding from Craig and Scott that they're having this problem in 2A and 1A and 3A where there's a dominating team in a district and everybody's dropping out. Once they put that certain team in the district, everybody else drops out of the district. Is that not true, Mr. Damon?
We've had some of that. Yes, sir. That's been the case.
Okay. And y'all have to follow me on this now. I'm calling this my 80% rule. Most schools, they want to be able to play for the playoffs. They want to be able to compete for a championship. They want to be ranked. They want to be able to make the playoffs or the fit. But they got to play some team that dominates their district and always wins the district championship. So everybody else in the district says, well, I'm not going to win the district championship, so I'm going independent. All right. So to me, let's give all schools a choice. I think we have to do that down the road. Right now, we got either you're in the playoff or you're independent. There's a happy medium if you give them a choice, and I call it the 80% rule, which means now you require a school can choose to play 80% of their district opponents, which leaves one out. Okay? So let's say you play everybody in your district except one school, the school that's recruiting your players and beating you with them. All right? So now you isolate that school. Now they have to go out and find opponents to play.
No.
So now their administration has to decide, we've got to go play schools that got 15 transfers just like they do. And that could work in 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5, all the way up. And now by choosing to be in the 80%, I'm gonna play 80% of my district. I'm forfeiting the district championship. I can't win it because I'm not playing my district. I'm not gonna win it anyway. Okay? Because that one monster's in there that's got all my players on their team. So you're forfeiting the opportunity to be the district champs because that's all playing your entire district gets you. If you play everybody in your district and you win, you get to make the playoffs automatically. Doesn't mean you're going to be seated highest. Doesn't mean you're going to host a game. It just means you're in the playoffs. So these other teams will have a better chance of making the playoffs and be ranked. You may meet that team down the line, but that's the way the playoffs is. Or you may not. They may get beat in the first round. You never know. So that gives these schools in these other classifications an option not to play the juggernaut all the time. And now that isolates the juggernaut. Does that make sense?
And just for the group and the isolation effect, and because my math could be a little wonky, but and it could just be me. So in the 80% rule within a district, if everybody within that district proposed to do that same rule, would the juggernaut play anybody within the district?
Might not. Nobody wants to play him. He'd be the district champ though, because nobody plays him.
Ladies and gentlemen,
He'd be the district
this
champ.
is the most craziest thing.
The juggernaut would be the district champ. They're going to be it anyway.
Let's just say that.
So let them be the district champs. Now they got to go find them. They got to play IMG. They got to play Chaminade. They got to play St. Thomas. They got to play, teams that are all juggernauts. You put all the juggernauts have to play each other, and they might not make the playoffs. Their schedule, their record might not be good enough. So you isolate the bad guys.
Mr. Kenner.
I think we're going down another rabbit hole here with classification system instead of just focusing on Craig's proposal for this first proposal. But since we're going down this route, if it's about everyone wanting to play for something in the postseason, we go playoffs strictly based off rankings, just like I proposed the last time. So if there's teams out there recruiting, whether it's rural or whether it's suburban, metro, whatever it may be, because it happens everywhere. There's teams in this area that got 15 transfers coming in. So is this not happening in the Panhandle or 1A, 2A? It's happening 5, 6, 7, 8. You go by rankings for the playoffs, all those teams would be ranked in the highest classification, and everybody else would be playing in the lower classification, so everyone would have a chance. I know it's for the future, but it's still, if you want everyone to have a chance to play, and you want all those top teams playing together, in addition to the open division, you go by rankings, and we've talked about it before. That's all. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Kennett. And I'd say, Mr. Damon, and just for calibration purposes, just kind of give us a refresh. So the recommendation before us is
The recommendation for us is in order to comply with policy 12.3.2.1, since the rule class does not meet the minimum 24 schools, we have to place those schools in a classification. So I'm basically asking to pause the rule class for this classification cycle, place the schools that want to be part of the state series into class 1A, and from there we will place them in districts so that they can compete during this classification cycle for a championship possibly. Football only.
so this is
How many?
this is and that was gonna be my next question. So this is football only right now as a part of this recommendation.
Correct. Football only. The other sports are not having these issues at this time.
How many rural teams will we lose to another association if we did that? If
Of
we
the
put-
ones that I've spoke to, the schools that I spoke to, the 16 that wanted to be committed to state series, I would say probably 13 to 14 of those said they would stay in the district. And I spoke to a couple, the ones that were on the fence, sort of like the idea of knowing that there's 4 teams in a district that if I win that, my kids are playing for something.
So,
However, they may also, with the next proposal, choose that other option that's coming up with the next proposal that I have.
but what if you just move the juggernauts up? How many would stay and play in rural? That question hasn't been asked, has it?
It hadn't been asked, but the sentiment I got from the rural class, even ones that were moving forward somewhere else, is they feel they're not playing without districts. They're not playing for. If you're not a state contender, you're not playing for anything. So if you weren't in the top 4 in the rural class, you're basically just playing 8, 9, 10 games, getting blown out in the first round. Your season was done because there's not that district. I was sort of shocked because we've been hearing people want to get away from districts. Well, the rural class that hadn't had districts in, I don't know if they've ever had districts, now are saying we'd love to have a district where we got required games. And now we can at least know at the beginning of the season, a district championship is something that's attainable, as opposed to only seeing a state championship opportunity that's out there and knowing that that's very rare for winning a state championship.
So hearing that, unless there's more discussion right now, which I see there is, Mr. Johns.
I just wanted to clarify something. So Mr. Bell, I can tell you that what Craig is saying is pretty accurate, but it is separated. The teams that have shown the desire thus far to go and do something different do not want districts. The ones that are left, most of them are going to be okay with districts. So what he's saying is accurate. His conversations have been those that have not left and are planning on staying, and a good portion of them do want districts because they want that schedule and they want to have the opportunity to have a schedule and possibly have something to play for. The ones that have no chance to win a district have already shown intent to do something else. So, Craig, real quick question for you. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but is there no discussion today about the independent league, or did I miss it?
Yes, that's action item 2. Independent.
Okay, all right, 10-4. I just want to make sure I thought I didn't see it. I want to make sure that was part of the discussion today.
Mr. Silvidio.
Mr. Silvidio?
Yeah, I just want to clarify one thing. I think we have to be careful with the language that we use. Success, winning begets more winning. I don't want to accuse every program that's winning a district or winning a title that they've done it only because they've done it nefariously. Success begets more success. Winning, because we have an open state and we have open transfer, does not mean that those programs are out recruiting. Kids want to go somewhere where they think they can experience more success. So that's not the fault of the winning program. So, we can identify them as juggernauts. Are they juggernauts because they're doing it the wrong way, or are they juggernauts because they're doing it the wrong way? I want to be careful that we don't just assume, or project that everybody's doing it the wrong way because they hoist a championship trophy. Certainly some are, but I'd like to think that most aren't.
And I appreciate that comment, and I would piggyback on that to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Damon, schools have the ability to accept transfers done the right way. And I also would say that if we are here as a board over the FHSAA and we're talking about recruiting, and I don't want to be naive, but if folks are recruiting, then they should be held accountable.
Amen.
By the way, people are asking about state statutes about
But,
sitting out a
but
year.
the problem is that's so hard to prove.
FHA can't do that anymore.
Okay. My question is this, how many of these small rural counties get 17 people move into their county in a year? 17 families move into the reason for rural is because the rural county said we play with the kids within our community that have grown up here, that have lived here. And then when we got to go to these big cities, and now we play against teams that have the opportunity to get kids from within the area. We only got the opportunity to get the kids within our small little county. That was the reason for the rural. Now, rural is going out and and school choice allows that. I'm for school choice. We're not going to change that. But what we can change is when a small community gets 17 transfers, they need to move up a classification. That allows more fairness for the rural teams that are playing with the kids that grew up in their community, which is the reason we started rural. If I'm wrong, if I'm right, I think I'm right.
And Mr. Chambers, if I can respond to Mr. Bell. The difficulty with Mr. Bell, I hear what you're saying, and we do our best here with ENC to follow up on allegations. And when we have proof, we have taken actions to get folks that are violating the rules. But with transfers at the beginning of the season, kids moving in, we do classifications for schools in mid-season. So like right now, we're doing classifications for the next 2 years. I don't know how many kids are going to transfer into a new school. So those classifications are set now, and people are for the next 2 years. So trying to move somebody up or down based on when the transfers come in would cause us to have a classification set, then have to make a change once the school year starts, which could impact scheduling and those other things. So not to disagree with, yes, it's different. And back when the rural class was started, it was because those large cities had a bigger pool of kids to draw from. However, school choice and open enrollment allows a kid to attend anywhere in the state of Florida. So every school, no matter how small a community, has the opportunity to have a kid choose to attend their school and make the drive, whether it's 100 miles, 50 miles, 75 miles, as a parent's choice. So playing with the rules that we have in place now in the environment that we have for the state of Florida as far as education is concerned, transfers are something that happens. I will say that the bills that are out in legislation this year, Senator Simons and Representative Abbott's bill, is addressing transfers and sort of reeling it back a little bit. I think that will definitely help some of the movement that we've seen in the past. They're also addressing non-traditional students and non-traditional student participation, where it'll sort of level the playing field a little bit. So I think we will see, I'm hoping, a passing of those bills. I'm hoping support of the governor on those bills, that we will see some of the things that we've seen the past 5, 6, 7 years, some of that slow down to a little bit where we won't have as much movement as we've had in the past.
Mr. Berryhill?
Yeah, thank you. 2 quick points. Totally agree with Mr. Damon on the timing of transfers. But I think that kind of goes along with what Mr. Kenneth said earlier. I know I've said it before. We can't control the transfers and the timing of the transfers, but if we didn't have classifications, we wouldn't have to worry about all this. If we set a playoff structure and just went off the rankings that we use, everybody would know how to get into the playoffs. Everybody would have to make their own schedule like we do in every other sport but football. And we wouldn't have to worry about when they transferred, how many they transferred. Because if you're the best of the best, you're going to be in the rankings, and that's who you're going to play in the playoffs. Second point is, again, this action item that we have is strictly a policy that we have to vote on. And the next item is really what we're talking about right now. And so I'd like to make a motion to approve Mr. Damon's recommendation to move the remaining rural schools, now that we're out underneath the 24 number, into Class 1A for football for this year.
So we have a motion by Mr. Berryhill. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Mr. Schusterman.
I could not tell who the second was.
Schusterman.
Thank you. We have a second by Mr. Schusterman. And with that, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? From what I could see, it looks like it is 11-1. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that motion carries 11-1.
Okay, so rural classification is positive.
Moving on to our
Is
next
1-1.
item is member schools exercising their option to be independent. Mr. Damon.
And again, thank you, Chairman Chambers. Independent school status, that's something that has been around for a while. State statute allows schools to be members, full members by sport. Our policy allows also for schools to either be part of the state series or based on a new school opening up, or the ability of your teams not to compete, allows schools to have the option to voluntarily go independent and participate. Part of that rule for the independent status was that schools that chose the independent status with the FHSAA were technically supposed to compete only during the regular season, and any type of gathering of schools to participate in anything outside of the postseason will require approval by the board of directors. Over the past few years, just a little history, we've had schools that were full members, FHSAA full members, that chose the independent status and only played 8, 9, 10 football games within the FHSAA, did not do any postseason. But we also had some full member schools that chose to be independent, but play with the outside organization outside of the FHSAA and participate in the postseason. With that having been approved by the board of directors, and again, hearing feedback from our member schools, Mr. Johns hit on a little earlier, is that our member schools up to this point in the history of the association, you had two options. You were state series or you independent school, and with the independent status, you did not play in the postseason. Those were the two options for our schools. Hearing from member schools over the past 4 years in this position I've been in, that some schools just felt that they need something different. And I can respect schools for doing what's best for their students and knowing what's best for their students. So we have not offered a third option. So basically what I'm asking the board is to consider allowing an independent league within the FHSAA for schools that are independent, can play whoever they control their own schedule. It gives them autonomy as far as their schedule. It would offer them some form of potential postseason participation. We would allow a ranking system, so teams will play whoever they want to play, use a ranking system at the end to break the schools down into possibly divisions. So for example, we have 60 schools that choose to participate in this independent league. We could use MaxPreps rankings and rank them 1 to 60. And as far as divisions are set, do 3 divisions. Division 1 would be schools ranked 1 to 20. Division 2 would be schools ranked 21 to 40. And Division 3 would be schools ranked 41 to 60 in that matter. And then create some form of a tournament structure where of the 20 schools in Division 1, we may take 8 or 12 and put them on a tournament and let them play for an independent division championship. The ones 21 to 60, maybe take 8 or 12 of that group, let them play for a division championship, and the same with the ones 41 to 60. I think I've heard loudly and clearly that this is something that our member schools want, that we have not made that available. And since we have not made that available, they have chose to look elsewhere for it. I am very strong at wanting to make sure that if schools want to be members of us, that I'm providing their needs and that we are responsive to their wishes. So I'm asking for permission from the board to consider allowing us to have an independent league, schools that are independent, having them, letting them keep their autonomy of schedule, making their own schedule without required games. However, waving a carrot at the end of some form of postseason play that they are seeking so that the kids have opportunity to participate for something. They also go on the record and state that this is nowhere, you will never hear me put the word state championship involved with this league, because that is not what it is about. State series, if you're looking for a state championship, the state series is the route that you would choose. But providing something for our other teams that are independent, that are going outside or going somewhere else, looking for this same experience when we have the capabilities of providing that within the FHSAA and keeping them on our structure. So that's what I'm asking from the board, because I do think there's definitely a need from it. It's not just small rural schools, it's 6A, 7A schools. A perfect example is down in Miami-Dade, Carlos Ochoa, that used to serve on the board. There's a group of about 10 schools down there that have their own little league. They split up into a north and a south. They play against each other. They pair up north versus south and have a little playoff system for their conference, and they're done within 10 games. Their issue there is that those schools don't have any football programs, youth programs in their area. So the first time a kid puts a helmet on is when they enter their school in 9th grade and trying to teach them football. So I do see that there's a need for some of our schools and just trying to provide an option make available for our schools that want to seek that type of participation. And that's my proposal.
So before we call for a motion, any discussion? Mr. Johns?
Right. Yes. So I'm very, very passionate about this point. I brought it up at the last board meeting, and we had so much on the agenda and on our plate that it kind of got pushed to the side, and now it's come back. So I'm begging the folks on this board to give some serious consideration to this. It does not hurt anyone. It doesn't hurt those folks that are wanting to win a state championship in any manner. There's no negative side for those guys. As with school choice and transfers, the separation between those teams that have the opportunity every year to win state championships has grown. The chasm between them and those that are on the other end that are not going to have an opportunity. This gives them a choice. It gives them something they can say, look, we're not going to win a state championship. We are very aware of where our program stands and what our abilities are, but we want our kids to have an opportunity to compete for something that doesn't hurt anybody. It just gives them an opportunity to have a chance to play for something. The big picture of this is maybe it saves a class like the rural class. Maybe folks that have left would say, okay, we left because we had no option. Now the FHSAA is giving us an option, and we'll come back or we'll stay. I know there are some schools that are interested in doing that now that have looked at going elsewhere, but I please you to consider this, because there is no negative effect on the teams that year in, year out have the opportunity to compete for a state championship. It only benefits those schools like one of mine that never has that opportunity, and it gives them something to play for. They're basically saying, we don't want a chance to win a state championship. We just want something to play for our kids. So I would beg you to give some serious consideration to this. Thank you.
And
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
One key thing I didn't mention in that, I'm also asking the board too, because right now, the way it's been done in the past is schools have been full members and played outside. So I want to be very clear with this, just from protection of the association, that if a school wants to be for independent status, there's two options that our schools have for independent status. First option is to be an FHSAA full member school, participate in the independent league, or just a 9 or 10 games regular season under the FHSAA, If you're seeking to play outside the FHSA, which I have no problem with that, if that is the best decision for your school, perfectly fine with that. But we're going to ask you to change your membership status from full member to member by sport, which is allowed in statute, allowed in our bylaws and policies, to be a member by sport and go play elsewhere. What that does, from my standpoint, had conversation with Mr. Ireland, is it protects the association from any type of liability that may occur for a team that's playing outside of our umbrella, but still a full member. Because we have we're still attached to that school, even though they're playing outside, and we're not able to provide any type of regulations, guidance, or any type of structure or governance over that group. So if you're with us, you're with us, and we're providing what you're asking us to provide, so that you are playing by rules. So if there's some liability concern, you are playing with our rules. However, if you're playing outside, it's a different set of rules, and I don't want to assume put the FHSA in harm's way by allowing a school to be a full member, but to play outside of our organization under somebody else's rules and governance.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other comments? Mr. Berryhill.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So obviously my school is one of those schools that falls underneath that umbrella that Craig's been talking about. And so I just have a couple questions before I say a few other comments. But when you say organization, or you mean association? Because isn't that what the legislation that was passed a couple of years ago, that's what it said, which made us have to go change our bylaws to allow for member by sport? Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. It's other associations.
Okay. So maybe this question is for Mr. Ireland. Is there any teeth in that legislation that dictates what the criteria to be an association is?
Not to my knowledge, but I don't have that statute in front of me.
Okay. Well, I looked at it and I didn't see any either. But so my question would be, you've got the schools in Hillsborough County that kind of do it. You've got schools down in South Florida that do it, where they play and they stay inside, the bracket of time and all that. My question is really, what's the criteria of an association? And the reason why I'm asking this question isn't specifically to my school. I represent a bunch of small schools that have sustained football because they've played elsewhere. And so based on my conversations, that's why I'm asking these questions. And so to me, the only criteria we have to really go by on status of an association, to me, would be the NFHS, or the National Federation of High School Sports. They're the only governing body, right? And so the FHSAA is the recognized association in the state of Florida, and there's no other recognized associations as the main one or the affiliate one. Is that correct?
There's, to my knowledge, 3 other associations. I've been to Tallahassee and been questioned about other associations. There are other associations. They're recognized in Tallahassee by our legislators that as being an association. As far as the National Federation status, there's kind of in several other states, there are other associations, independent associations and so forth, that maybe haven't chose to apply for an affiliate membership with the National Federation. I am operating like they're an association because that's what's been directed to me, that they are considered to be an association or organization. So
yeah, and I understand. I'm just trying to make a point of based on getting to go this summer and learning and knowing that there's other associations, quote unquote, in other states that aren't the main one, but there's an opportunity to become an affiliate member of the NFHS, which is the national governing body. And there's really only one association we're talking about in this conversation with schools playing football in, and they're not recognized currently. Is that correct?
that's correct. They've applied, I think, 2 times, 3 times to be a
Right. Again, I'm not trying to be mean to anybody. I'm just trying to lay out some information that I think matters to the schools that are on that side, so that they can make the best decision for their school. And then I think the independent series is a great idea. We talked about that in our last board meeting. Multiple members of this board have brought that up in the past. And so basically the school's going to have a choice. They can be enter into the state series or they can be in the independent series. And we can come up with the structure for a playoff system for that. So thank you guys for your time.
Mr. Kenna.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a first step into eventually going to rankings for everybody, so we can even the playing field out for everybody, just not the independent schools. So I think it's a great idea. But I do have a concern because unfortunately, there are some nefarious actors out there that may decide to drop down to the independent just to win an independent title, and then you would still see games that are kind of out of hand in the scores. Has there been thoughts about how to handle that?
Mr. Kinney, this is Scott Jameson. It has that's always a consideration. You know that people will do what they can to win. It hasn't been a thought that stopped us from pursuing this opportunity. Our hope is that the teams that are competitive enough on the state series will remain in the state series to try to win a district championship and then have an opportunity to play in regions and play for a state championship, and that the schools, again, that are seeking more of an independent status to play their own schedule and stuff will maintain that independent status and play in that series. Obviously, as I can't predict what's going to happen with anything, and I think anytime there's an opportunity to win something, there will always be schools that will try to take advantage of the opportunity. I don't believe that should be a roadblock in the way of pursuing this opportunity, but is absolutely something that we will, of course, keep an eye on. And I don't know how exactly we will, determine who's being nefarious and who's not. But it is definitely something that, of course, we would keep our eye on. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a roadblock. I'm just curious because I know there will be schools that eventually jump down or go down to encourage more winning. But I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kenna. Mr. Johns?
Just two quick things. One, I would like to address Mr. Kenna on that. So through my conversations with Craig and Scott, we've discussed that many times as to how to keep that from happening. Could there be an application process? But along with that comes what is the criteria? And I don't think that anyone's ready to be able to establish that criteria as of right now. The second thing is that we hope that the teams that want to win a state championship, I mean that's what they want to do, will stay in the state series and not consider the independent bracket A championship as important enough to them. You very well may have some that decide they just want to win, they don't care. And then the third thing is, Thomas, we were convinced by everybody at the last board meeting, coaches and people outside, that everybody wanted mandatory district play. That we had to vote for that because everybody wanted mandatory district play. So we'll see. I mean, because they won't have mandatory district play if they come down into the independent bracket. So we'll see if that data holds up. But Craig, I would like to ask a question. So is the establishment, or so would you be asking the board that we have to vote on these two things together, that we have in order to get the independent league approved, we have to also approve the member by sport stuff that you've talked about? I just want to know if that's a package. So if this board decides they're not willing to hold teams to the member by sport, does that mean the independent league goes away, or is there still an option? I just want to know how we're voting on this.
I packaged them together, Mr. Johns, but if the board chooses to split them up, that's fine. My thought and rationale is that if schools are looking for an alternative that we have not offered inside and had to go outside to get it, now if I'm offering it, why would you leave? There's no point if what you're looking for that we have not offered in 100 years, and now we're offering it, you know, and you have it there. Why do you need to go somewhere else if what you're asking for is available for you? I could see before when it wasn't here, but now that it's available, so I would like to keep the two together because I feel that part of me offering this was even looking at independent league was because of what schools asked for, and they said that we weren't offering it. So now I've listened to schools, and now I'm offering it because you asked me to. So what is the need for going outside if it's giving you the same thing you're getting outside?
Mr. Berryhill?
Mr. Damon, isn't the member by sport, isn't that already in policy?
Yes.
So in theory, like, we're talking about this together, but the member by sport is already in policy. So we would have the ability to get rid of member by sport. Is that kind of, Bobby, is that kind of what you're talking about?
That's a statute, Trevor, so we can't get rid of that.
That's what I thought. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Is really we're only voting on, Craig's put this in here, just let everybody know, like, you got to follow this policy.
Okay, yeah.
And then
So
after that,
I guess
there's an
that
the action item is we're going to start an independent series. Is that correct?
This is Scott. I would say, and I do believe they go together. Again, I think in policy 10, it dictates what would indicate an independent team, and a school that's choosing to be a member of another association would not be independent anymore under the definition. And with us offering that playoff track now for the independent, again, I do think they go together as an item as well. I see what you're saying with it, but it would be just enforcing the policy based upon the language that's written in there regarding what would indicate a team being independent would mean they're independent of other associations. Once you join another association, you're no longer, the word independent doesn't necessarily apply any longer.
Right. If you have football and you're not doing this that we're proposing, you're putting no school or no football team or no soccer team, and you're going to play elsewhere. But all your other teams that are state series are member by sport, which means you're not a full member and you lose the benefits of being a full member.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments? And so my one question would be, Mr. Damon, based on what was just stated in that first part of this recommendation, that it's recommended that the association require schools to amend their membership status and so forth. Is it my understanding that that's already statute?
It's statute, but what has taken place in the past few years is that schools filed independent but played outside of the association. So basically, it's if you're playing outside the association, you should be filing. Your status should be member by sport, as opposed to a full member. And no team in football.
They say they're an association.
Mr. Berryhill?
One more quick point. Again, I'm speaking for a group that I represent because I think that there's some uncertainty on. Can you just go over real quick the actual benefits that we have if we're a full member?
Yeah, let me pull it up in the bylaw.
I mean, I know the simple answer is we can be on committees, we can serve on boards, we get to vote, we can answer surveys, but can you just kind of touch on those?
Yes, privilege to compete in FHSAA state championships, to vote in association elections, to seek election to positions in the FHSAA governance structure and substructures, and the privilege to make application for and serve as host of multi-school events that require FHSAA office approval.
Thank you.
And
are the scholarships a part of that membership benefit, or is that, would member by sport be available for that?
That's a great question.
It doesn't say it's not.
It doesn't say that they're not, that they excluded. It was just, I think, the ability to vote, to serve on various committees and so forth, and be part of the championship.
Like I said, I'm trying to help clarify for some people. Thank you.
Okay.
Are we ready for a motion?
Mr. Schusterman had a comment.
Sir?
Mr. Chambers.
Yes, I just want, I wanted to say that I want to applaud these people and Craig and the group for standing up for something that they believe in and seeing and admitting it's something that needed to be done. The independent league right now is something that is needed by many, many schools in this state. And I'll tell you what, with Coach Kenna, I am a believer in competitive balance. And I think it'll also give us an avenue to do rankings and see how they go within that independent league and how we put the playoffs together for those groups. I think it would be a positive in many ways. And I think the fact that the association is saying, hey, we're a little late on the situation, but we want to solve the problem. And I think that it deserves our support. I mean, are you ready for a motion?
Mr. Kenna.
Sorry, I know we're all ready for a motion, but I just wanted, are the schools, and I could be wrong on this, but are the schools that have chosen to go to the other association going to have an opportunity to come back to play in this independent league this upcoming year?
Yes, thought process was to, once decisions are made today, to put something out for a couple of weeks, allow schools to make a decision, sit down and gather and talk which way they want to go, and can easily apply to come back.
And my probably my last question would be, actually, I'll hold on that. Mr. Johns.
I just wanted to clarify that this, if we vote this today, then it's open to teams that are not currently independent or not currently looking to go to another association, like teams that have already been put in districts, or are they locked in and it's teams that are independent or SSAA currently that have this opportunity this year?
I would think that it'd have to be open to pretty much everybody right now because of the way it's set up. I love to have been the ability to lock folks in, but school could be locked in all year long and go independent in the middle of the season. So that's always our bylaws and policies have allowed that. So we couldn't stop them from going independent at any point in time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And if this were to pass, how quickly will the communication be disseminated in terms of schools understanding where they are with the first vote and now where we currently are with the second vote? How quickly will that information get out in terms of folks knowing where they are, scheduling purposes?
We actually have planned for me to do a briefing and put it out on social media as soon as this meeting is over with today. So the plan is for today, something to go out with me giving a summary overview of what passed and what that looks like for our member schools moving forward. And that will go out today on our social media accounts.
Mr. Chambers, are you referring to the districts, the actual setup of the districts, or are you just referring to the information from this meeting? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understood your question.
Probably a little bit of both in terms of schools who are going to make a decision of where they're going to go, them knowing what their structure's going to look like so they can make the best decision possible. And then two, also so they have the ability to know what's happening so they can also look at their schedules for the upcoming season.
You want me to?
The thought is, again, getting the information out, maybe allowing 2 weeks, maybe the following Friday, 2 Fridays from now, to give us where they want to go. And from that, we've already been playing around with some of the rules, schools, for example, of where they might fit into districts and so forth. So it'll be pretty quickly. I would say by the end of maybe the third week of February, we should have something out finalized.
And I know I had
posed that question due to the fact of folks asking that question to me, and you guys know this much better than I do, but that's
I'm also curious.
a question that's been posed to me.
Left can play.
No. Mr. Chambers, this is Scott again. I've had that question posed as well, and my answer has been as quickly as humanly possible because we do understand the scheduling part of it. I think what's been brought up in this meeting regarding schools that may want to shift now that they have an option. We don't necessarily want to put something out tomorrow that's going to change 3 times over the next week. So I do believe we need to at least allow a little bit of time for things to shake out, for the information to get out there. As Mr. Damon said with his statement today, I think we can put a timetable on it. That way our coaches understand, hey, my district placement's going to happen on this date. And by that point, we'll put it out. I do believe that's important. I believe it's very important for scheduling purposes. I know some games may have to be shifted and moved. So just from in the athletics area, speaking on behalf of our area, we do understand the need for expediting this process. So we will absolutely be doing that.
Appreciate it. Do we have a motion? We have a motion by Mr. Johns,
Second.
second by Mr. Bell. Any discussion?
Okay, so we've got a motion now.
Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 12-0.
Yeah.
Moving on to the third item for approval, deals with the ECG forms. Mr. Jameson.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. We also have some individuals.
So
if
that
we could
vote
move
carries
I believe they may be
12-0
the
here.
attendees. Mr.
And,
Let me see if
they got a third item. And it's
yeah,
dealing with
Dr. Keefe
forms.
and then Mr. Sefcik, I
but
believe, should be jumping on here in a second.
Since the third item is
Do we want to take a quick
forms
break
and
to allow
stuff,
him in, or do you want to
dealing
keep
with-
moving?
dealing with forms, we're going to kind of go ahead and
I would
bring this
turn that
out
over
of
to
the
you
meeting
all.
here on this.
Make that
So,
decision.
and
Do you want to start talking and let him when he?
Yeah, I can. Mr. Sefcik should be.
He's in. Is that him now?
There,
let's see
there
here.
he is, right there.
Item.
Perfect. So Dr. Keefe and Dr.
I'm not sure if
Sefcik,
they're going to have
I'm
comments
sure
or
who the
not
other,
afterwards.
individual is
I'm
on there,
kind of
Chanel,
curious to
sorry.
see what's going to be said out of the board by afterwards. Let's
Definitely
see
the
what happens.
RSF right there in the Dr. Keefe would be great. And I'll start while they are being moved in. There's Mr. Sefcik there. He's a member of our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, and Dr. Keefe is as well.
This
We
is a sports
appreciate their hard
medicine.
work. They've put a lot of time and effort into these forms. And what you see on these forms is a result of that work. And the 4 documents you have in front of you are the EL1, which is the electrocardiogram screening. So this will be the document that will be submitted to the school, indicating that the student has either received a favorable or unfavorable reading from their ECG. The EL1A on the other page, which we had a lot of back and forth in the SMAC about separating that page out entirely. And our athletic directors advisory committee yesterday, we did meet with them as well, and they gave some great recommendations on this. They would also like to possibly see that page separated out from the EL2. So just for some clarification purposes, the EL1A that you see is very similar to page 5 of the EL2 pre-participation physical examination form, which is a follow-up form. If there is an issue and the student needs to see a specialist or be cleared by another doctor because there was an issue with either their physical or their ECG, then that page 5 of the EL2 is now essentially the EL1A. So it is connected to both documents. The ADAC's recommendation was to pull that out, separate that out, make it its own form. We'll leave that up to the board to make that determination. And I'm going to turn this over here momentarily to Mr. Sefcik and Dr. Keefe to speak. I just wanted to kind of go through all the documents. There is at the bottom of page 1 on the EL1, you'll see where it says link. That was my mistake. That should be who we play for. That should be their website address. They are the ones that are going to be assisting students.
So
they are already doing it in this state, assisting students
I'm going to bring
with
volume
getting
down.
follow-up. They are very good.
I'm going to bring the volume down here as they talk about this third item is dealing with ECG forms. There could be some comments from the board members after this third item because that's usually what happens in the board meeting. Usually there's more comments that follow afterwards. Could be some interesting comments if things happen when we go dealing with this. So we're just going to kind of leave it on in the background, but we're going to talk about what just happened here. 11-1, the FHSAA Board of Directors votes to fold Class Rural for at least the next 2 years. It's on pause into Class 1A, the remaining schools that are in the rural classification. So that vote was 11-1. Ricky Bell dissented on that vote. And then on the establishment of forcing the rules for independent teams that go independent and decide to go play in another association. So a lot of schools that went to the SSA Atlantic League this is a pretty big example here to use. They basically said here at this particular point is that if you're going to go play for a championship in another elite, another association, basically you need to change your membership status from full membership status to by sports status. And then establishing an independent league. Well, that vote went through 12-0. So now the big question is what happens to the Sunshine State Athletic Association? Because a lot of these schools that are in the Sunshine State Athletic Association are FHA full members. And now the schools are going to have to decide, do we keep our full membership status, which means you cannot be part of the SSA anymore in terms of football, or do you go by sport status? And some of the schools stay SSA for football, but they're sport by sport member status for the rest of their sports, which for those schools, they can lose a lot in terms of being able to vote in committees, be part of committees, be part of the board of directors, for a lot of different committees, not necessarily about the academic awards and other stuff like that. There's nothing there about that. They kind of went through that here in the meeting. But at this particular point, basically a lot of schools now in the SSA have to make a decision, and because they're FHA full members as well. So at this particular point, I like to make basically, and I'll call the Sunshine State Athletic Association president Stuart Wise. This is an open all call for him. Come on and let's talk about what's just happened here, because again, there's a lot here that could happen for the SSA. There's a lot at stake for the SSA now. What does the SSA look like as an association now? Because a lot of their members are also full members of the Florida High School Athletic Association. This is a big decision that was just handed down, and I know for a lot of schools, things change. So, and I had a question, and I sent it over to one of my FHA contacts to get an answer on this. And could any of the schools that went that could be placed back into state series that did leave, like any of the rural schools that wanted to be in 1A because they have a district, yes, they can ask to be put back into the state series. So those schools that left can come back in and be part of the state series, because now they be part of a district in 1A or wherever classification would put them at, basically, or even some of the larger schools, or even some of the private schools, if they want to be in the state series, or if they want to go or they have the choice to go to the independent league that's going to be established now. So there's a lot here, a lot at stake, a lot to talk about here. And I'm going to see if we can get some other people on here, and we're going to talk about this.
Honestly, our committee doesn't feel that form is going to get used that often, but yet.
Yeah. So, man, this is a big decision. It's a big. There's a lot here that's at stake because there's the Sunshine State Athletic Association. What is it going to look like now? There's a lot of big questions now. What is the future of the Sunshine State Athletic Association? So again, they're voting on a third form here. They're voting on this. They're talking about this form here. It's an ECG form. I just kind of brought the volume down for right now on that, because it's not something related to football necessarily. I mean, it's related to the athletes for all sports. It's dealing with a form that's dealing for sports medicine, not necessarily a form for us here in terms of things like that. So again, there's a lot to discuss, a lot to chew on, a lot to really kind of get after here. There's so much here that it's the rural classification basically is now merged with Class 1A, and at least for the next 2 years. We'll see if the rural classification comes back and survives, and we'll see what happens along the way. But right now, we're sitting here. We're gonna have to wait here for a few minutes. I'm kind of we're hoping to hear a little bit more from the other, hear from more of the board members on maybe some thoughts from them as we talk here. Again, you've been watching we're on the Florida HS Football Show. We've been listening with the FHA Board of Directors meeting to decide to fit the rural classification, which they just did. Again, 11-1. Ricky Bell, the dissenting vote on that to move the rural schools into Class 1A. I have been told that these rural schools that did move to the Atlantic League and the SSAA could come back in now because of the vote on the independent stuff, on the independent league and the independent status. That was a 12-0 vote that those schools could come back in, asked to be placed in a district in the state series. The rural will not be available to them. Rural's gone. But it sounds like a lot of these teams in the rural wanted district play, never got that. There was asked, there was rural schools that there was. Price Harris from Madison County was a big advocate of it. For Madison County for the rural schools to have district play, never happened. That was not part of the 6+ rural vote back in November. But now Madison County, Price Harris is going to get his wish now because he's going to be put in a district Class 1A, not Class Rural. So there's a lot here to really kind of chew on, eat on, so to speak. There's a lot here. Again, we're waiting for the end of the board meeting because there may be some comments we want to hear on, kind of digest those comments too. We're just waiting for them to really kind of deal with this ECG form. So that's why we're kind of keeping it on here in the background here. So I might be able to move this to a picture-in-picture. Just give me a second here. Let's see if I can bring this, see if it'll let me do it this way. Okay, let's see. We could do that for right now. Let's bring that here as well. Okay, I think we can do that right now. A lot here to really kind of digest here as we watch this board, the remaining part of the board of directors meeting. If you got any questions, pop in the chat. I'm going to try to get some people on here to have some discussion here. I'm going to try to see about like Corey Davis. Jonathan Ferris, who's been watching, I mean, my take so far is that there's a lot at stake here. There's a lot that's about to happen here. I'll be honest with y'all. This is why we have not broken down any of the districts of the new districts, why we have not talked about any of the districts pairings, because anything can happen here. A lot can happen here based on the decisions that were made today. Some teams that may be still in district status may say, hey, well, you know what, independent league, we're going for it. So they removed themselves out of the district. Basically, I think you're going to see a whole nother whole redo of the whole classifications at this point. The FHA, now, Craig Damon says there's only 8 districts now in 1A. Well, when it was published back in December and it's still up on the FHA website, it shows 11 districts. So nothing's been updated to this point as in what's new and what has been changed in the assignments. And part of it is probably because why has not been published is what happened there. And how does this affect teams in scheduling after other teams? Right now, this changes a lot. Some of those schedules that have been published, those schedules may end up changing. Those schedules may end up changing because of the 2 votes that happened today for football. Again, 11-1, move the remaining rural teams in the Class 1A, and then the 12-0, nothing to enforce the independent status. Okay, so the schools, you basically make a decision. You're going to retain full membership status. You come back, you're not part of the SSA. If you want to be part of the SSA, you go the member by sport status, and then that way you can play in the SSA for whatever sport you need to play in, and then retain your membership status for all your other sports. But you lose full membership status basically doing that. And I know from my understanding, there's a lot of schools that are not willing to lose their full membership status with the FHA because of the things that the FHA provides. That's my understanding. So this has been a wild day. There's some people that I've asked that, maybe they come on and speak. They can't yet because of being in order or, making sure that, people, it's like, explain the multiplier model. Basically, you would the multiplier model. I think Georgia does it. You get so many transfers as a multiplier, or you get to move up to the next classification. Basically, you could do it so many different ways. Basically, the multiplier, you put a number, like say, okay, so you get so many transfers. You have a number. You have a multiplier of like, say, let's just use 1.5. So for those transfers, 1.5 is multiplied to those number of transfers that come in. They count towards your enrollment numbers. That you add your traditional numbers, add the enrollment, the transfer number, and then you come out to a final enrollment number. That would be the number you would go with. So that's what I'm kind of explaining with the multiplier model, DeMarcus, you asked about. So we'll go ahead and pop the comments back up here on the chat. That way people can see what's going on. If they want to throw a chat question in the chat, you can go ahead and do that. Just pop it into the chat, whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook. Again, you're watching the Florida HS Football Show or listening to it on the recording on your favorite podcast platform, including Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio and Amazon. And if you're watching us on the YouTube channel or watching this afterwards on the YouTube channel, go to the YouTube at Florida HS Football, hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. When we go live, you'll get notifications that way. So again, we appreciate everybody just here watching and listening and chiming in with your thoughts and comments. Again, there's a lot of various opinions, a lot of various takes, and I have to say this has been an interesting day. Some things, some ripple effects that are going to happen, some things that are going to change, some things that are going to we're going to find out what's going to happen now for a lot of these schools. We're going to have to kind of reach out to some of these schools, talk to them, see what's going on. What are they going to do? Because a lot of these schools, especially a lot of the rural schools that went from the rural classification over to the SSA Atlantic League, and some of the other schools that may have been not rural necessarily, but other schools, this forces a big hand now at this particular point for a lot of schools. Do we go to the sport by sport status? And again, there's a lot of public schools that are going to say, no, we're not losing our full membership status of the FHSAA just to play over here in the SSA because we want to have representation on these committees and boards and stuff like that. And that's kind of seems to be the sentiment that I've heard from a couple of coaches. I had one coach message me during this, and he basically saying that losing full membership status may make a lot of teams come back to the FHSAA. And they're absolutely right. This is what it will do. So there's a lot of decisions here. I feel like, to me, I'll explain more once we get out of this. I've got some opinions, I got some thoughts, but there's definitely some things that were said in this board meeting, especially from a couple members that I'm not here to ruffle feathers, but there was some blame laid that I feel like is very unwarranted, and this is actually kind of the kind of inflammatory comments that were made. In my opinion, I feel like they're inflammatory. In my opinion, we're gonna have to address that, but we're gonna wait and see. They're kind of still going through this ECG stuff. I don't know how long it's gonna take.
Those criteria, that is up to the doctors that are performing this to read that properly. I'm on the same page with you.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to
encourage the doctors that they can't just hook an ECG up to a student athlete and then look at whatever result was.
Yeah, so I'm waiting to see here.
They actually have to look at the EKG itself and make a formal diagnosis based upon that literature. So,
but that's also going to mean that that's going to be subjective based on if a parent carries a kid to a doctor to get it done versus we bring in who we play for.
So we're waiting to see what's going to. Hopefully, this gets done here soon. I would like to. I got some opinions. I got some analysis I really want to talk about, but I'm just kind of waiting to see if there's any other comments here. Again, I want to address the couple of comments that came from a couple of board members with their comments, the suggestions, the thoughts, the comments. I'm kind of flabbergasted and floored by some of it.
Part of this conversation, so we're all working to do the best we can in educating our clinicians out there and making sure that everybody's ready. But to your point, we're going to hit some bumps in the road, and we just need to work together. And by all means, y'all have my number, or if
and let's see. I'm hoping that
I anticipate, just like anything, we might make a little modification to a form here and there, but we want it user friendly. We want to again, the ultimate goal of this is student safety, and we're not trying to penalize anyone. We just want to keep them safe.
And my final question, so you're saying, make sure I'm on the same page. So anyone that is above the 9th grade that played last.
Okay, so I'm trying to get a hold of it. Let me see if I can get.
But encouraged anyone that is above the 9th grade that did not participate is required. All incoming 9th graders are required.
I'm trying to find out if I may bring in Corey Davis from the Palatka Daily News. Maybe able to bring him on, talk, see if I can get him on and talk. But we're gonna find out. Again, there's a lot of questions here. What's going to happen with the SSA? What's going to happen with the members of the Sunshine State Athletic Association? There's a lot here now to really go over, kind of run down, kind of give my thoughts. But again, I just want to address a couple of things from a couple of the board members' comments. I'm kind of stunned. I'm kind of stunned and flabbergasted hearing what was said, where blame is being laid out, because I'll tell you this, the blame, you can't lay full blame on a particular group. There's a lot of things. There's a lot more things open here in terms of the circle, in terms of the cloud, in terms of what we're talking about here, what everything that's there. There's just a lot more to really kind of get down to at this particular point.
We're already moving forward with that here in Duval County. Really
Trying to see what else they got here, because they're
in screening these student athletes. So we're trying to get ahead of the curve as possible.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I would just like to, this is Scott.
trying to see what how much longer they're going to go on before they have a vote on this one thing, because then again, there's going to probably be comments here. That's usually what happens at the end. Usually that's how board directors meetings work. They're usually board member comments. I'm kind of curious to see what kind of comments come out of that. There may not be anything to talk about off the comments, but there are stuff to talk about off the comments that were made during the discussion points, especially on the first item dealing with the world classification and going from there. So that's what we're going to do. We're just waiting to wait to see what happens here. That's why you might hear some silence here in the middle of all this, especially if you're listening to the audio recording on your favorite podcast platform afterwards. So today's been interesting. A lot's about to happen. A lot more changes are about to happen. So if you got any questions for me, just drop them in the chat. I can answer those for you. So
we'll be able to answer it for you. So I think this is going to go very well. And I'd echo Mr. Sevchek and Dr. Keefe's, all the different organizations and doctors that helped us out. It was a tremendous help, and it was a big effort on the parts of a lot of people. So thank you. And then my last statement is
okay, let's see.
If possible, to make sure that the
I'm trying to see what's going to happen here. Let's just see what's going to happen. I appreciate all y'all holding on and waiting here as we roll along here. Again, there's a lot to really kind of chew on, kind of really discuss, really try to get to. We're just kind of waiting to see if there's going to be any additional comments. The FHA board, they're still meeting here. They're going through the thing of dealing with modifications to the ECG form. That's from the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee. This is a separate item. It's not directly related to the two topics that we're talking about in football that were voted on to the thing. So let me
to do that and separate that form out with the other one as well.
Thank you, Mr. Jamison. Any other comments? Mr. Severa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, it looks like we may have Corey Davis from the Placket Daily News jumping in on with us. He's going to jump in with us. I just got to send him the link to be able to jump in with us on the thing. So I'm going to do that here. So we'll because Corey covers a lot of the teams, especially a couple of his teams are already in the SSA Atlantic League. That includes Interlochen, and Crescent City was making the jump. Placa's the only one that has not made that jump or anything like that. Placa was staying state series. So we'll talk with him, maybe have some discussion here, because really at this particular point, there's a lot here to discuss, a lot to really kind of get down to the nitty gritty on. So let me see if I can bring up my email. I'm going to email Corey here. Give me 1 second here as I roll along here. Appreciate it. And this is kind of like live stuff here and everything. So appreciate everybody giving just understanding that as we're doing this live, sometimes things kind of go on the fly here. So let me do this.
Which allows guardians and parents.
Let me do this.
You're breaking up so much, sir.
Okay, so I thought it might have been our side, but it's not. It's something on their end that they're having a break issue with some audio.
In the statute that talks about you're allowed to
Adam Severa.
the liability if there's a quote unquote inherent risk in the activity.
So they're talking about some stuff with this ECG form. So, but
we know there's inherent danger in playing football, contact sports.
Any guesses to what the districts could look like in 1A? Oh gosh, John Brock asked that question. I can't even begin to answer that because who knows what's going to happen, because now some of the rural schools could ask to come back in, be placed in 1A and be in the state series that left because of the changes that were made today. So
language within 744.301 in the sense that, like, listen, I'm not a golfer, but pretty sure that golf is not a dangerous sport.
So
Minor inherent risks in golf, and same thing with bowling. So what I want to make sure, Mr. General Counsel, is are we fully, or is the FHSAA fully protected by the current version of the liability the liability waiver we have under EL3, or is there anything we can do to bolster it up, or is it satisfactory in its current state?
This particular EL3 and earlier versions of it have been upheld by at least, I believe, 3 district courts of appeal. I'm familiar with the case that you're talking about. That's where a father.
we'll get Corey Davis on hopefully here in a moment and see what we got. Again, appreciate everybody listening here or watching here on the FHS Football Show. We've been this has been done live here over the last 2 hours. We've been on here, and we started at 10:45. It's now 12:51 here Eastern Time, 11:51 Central Time, and the board meetings got started late because they had some technical difficulties. Again, if you're just joining us, 11 to 1 vote to put the rural schools that are left into Class 1A for the next 2 years, put a pause on the rural classification, and then a 12-0 vote to enforce the independent status of schools. Basically, if you're a full member and you want to play in a different association for any sport, you need to go to member by sport status. If you want to retain full membership, the FHA will provide you all the stuff that on their side, and you retain your full membership status with the FHA. And then it also establishes an independent league, and this would basically create an independent league for football. Basically, it could be for other sports too, because it wasn't necessarily exactly for football the way the wording read, but it says devices are not connected on Corey's end. We're waiting for Corey to connect on.
Page 5 from the EL2 and the EL1A are combined into one document, and then we will name that document in line with the way we name our other documents and put it on as a subspecialty in case there is a follow-up that is necessary. So it'll be basically
but I'm at lunch and I'll definitely be done by then. So we're good.
So I'm waiting for Corey. I see he popped his on, but it says I can't bring him on until he get the video and audio fixed because it says it's not connected. So we'll wait and see what's going to happen here. Corey, and wait for Corey to get that fixed before I can bring him, because I can't. There's no way I can bring him on anyways because it won't let me. Yeah, it says they'll need to connect their mic and camera.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Okay, so they just voted.
The motion carries 13-0.
Oh, the ECG form they just voted on. That's 12-0. So
appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you all for your support.
I'm going to bring this up.
Thank you both very much. And Mr. Damon, I would say right now I do not have a report, but definitely appreciate everybody.
No report of the board president, but we're going to find out if
it's a busy time. Just appreciate it very much. Anything else for the good of the group before we adjourn?
See if there's any comments that come out of this.
Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Bell. Second.
All right.
Mr. Berryhill.
Yeah, they're motion to adjourn, so no comments coming out of that. So we'll go ahead and bring
unanimous that we are adjourning. Y'all have a great day. Appreciate it.
They are adjourning here. All right. Okay, so joining us in the one from the Placa Daily News, the assistant sports editor, that's Corey Davis joining us here. And boy, Corey, talk about what just happened here. My goodness, some big decisions for a lot of the independent schools that are that are SSA member schools that now they have to decide, okay, are we going to retain our full membership status with the FHA, or are we going to go member by member sport status? That's huge right there. That's going to leave a lot of schools thinking, okay, well, if we go member by sport status, we lose access to a lot of this stuff over here. If we retain full membership, we can't be part of the SSA anymore.
Well, I just had somebody text me and say, oh, well, I guess this kind of kills the SSAA. I'm like, no. If anything, it will likely make teams jump more to the SSAA because of this. Because I actually just broke this down between 1A and rural, and I'm trying to figure out what districts could look like. Why would a Hilliard, and I'm saying Hilliard because they're close to me, why would they want to be in a district with Trinity Christian and University Christian? Madison will likely be in a district with FAMU, McClay, and North Florida Christian. It's not the old North Florida Christian. It's not the team that's winning state titles. Why would they want Madison in their district? So if anything, I think this is going to make teams go independent or go to the Atlantic League.
Well, here's the thing, and this is what my understanding is, and I actually got a message from a couple of people, and it's like basically what this boils down to, from my understanding, the way it was described to me, and basically, and everything with this is that the whole thing is that basically, okay, it's the way I'm understanding the way the vote was done, Corey, is that the teams that, hey, you got this, you got obviously you're folding in, obviously you got some points there, hey, some of these teams, I say, hey, I don't want to play with this score, or Hilliard, but Hilliard may look at the independent option and say, hey, okay, this is the independent league, all right, this is good for us, we'll take it, that they may decide that. But the other issue that we're seeing here, Corey, maybe your video is a little choppy, I'm not sure if you've frozen there, okay, there you are, is that the vote on the independent league, but it's okay, do we retain full membership status with the FHSAA, or do we decide to go sport by sport? Because those schools that have full membership status, if you go sport by sport, you lose access to home campus for that particular sport. You lose access to basically your school being able to be on boards and advisory committees, basically for any of your sports. Because
I don't think that's a big deal, though. Not a lot of schools participate in those kind of things. So what I heard was, when someone brought it up, they would lose the ability to vote and serve on communities. Okay, big deal. Not every school is heavily involved with the committees and everything because, they work for a school. That's their first priority. And I don't see this being such a big deal. So going sport by sport, it's not like they're losing, the volleyball team's not losing eligibility as far as making the playoffs, unless their volleyball team chooses to go independent. And one thing they said too is, by choosing to go independent, there's still a playoff system, but they won't consider them state champions. Right. So basically, this is the FIT 2.0.
I mean, you could describe it as that. It's just what Craig Damon says. Hey, the FHSAA is saying, hey, all right, you want to play for a state championship? We have the state series. You want to play for something, have postseason play, but not deal with the state series. You'll have the independent league, or you can still be the SSA, but you're going to have to change your membership to member by sports status, lose full membership status. So there's a lot of decisions for schools to be made here. I mean, you got a couple schools in your area alone. I mean, obviously you cover a lot of the other schools that are outside just the area because they're part of that, then part of the SSA Atlantic League. Interlochen, Crescent City. Those are two programs out of your three schools in your coverage area. Mm-hmm. I mean, Plaquemine State in the state series. They're in a district. They feel content.
Yeah, they're not going nowhere.
They're not going anywhere. But it's Interlochen, Crescent City. They're saying, hey,
Well, and Crescent City talked about going to the Atlantic League 2-3 years ago when Coach Delaney was there. Yeah. But Delaney was the only one on board going to the Atlantic League. Nobody else wanted to go to that league. They all wanted to remain in the SSAA and compete for a district championship. But like Delaney told me, and the Interlochen coach, Eric Gibson, has told me numerous times, what is the point of winning a district title and then having to go to Bradford or Cocoa in the first round and lose 56-0? That is demoralizing for the players and the coaches. You work all hard this offseason to potentially win a district and go to the playoffs, and you're murdered in the first round. In fact, I heard Bobby John say that. I believe that was him. there's no fun in losing 60-0 in the first round.
Well,
You know,
I get
they
that.
want something
I
to play
agree
for.
with
They want a level playing field, and that's why the Atlantic League specifically, because that's the league I follow. I don't really follow the 8-man or 11-man in the SSAA,
right?
But that's why it was created. You know, and the crazy thing is, I mean, I write about this literally on a weekly basis. I'm writing about the Atlantic League because they keep adding teams. 5 years ago, it was only 4 teams.
Right.
Interlochen, Stanton, Paxton, Cocoa Beach. Every year, it's nearly doubled. I think they went from 4.
I mean, last year was 20. This past year was 20 teams.
Well, technically 21, but yeah.
Well, 21 when 21 if you count Tradition Prep, who has now been moved back into the 11-man side because of their numbers.
And so they've gone from 4 to I think 11 to 16, 16 to 21, and now currently they're 51, I believe.
I thought it was like 54 actually the other day. The way the numbers were, it may have been. I think it's up to 54 now. Or I know it was a possibility that they said they were going to get close to probably 60, but but this was before all of this vote came down and what the agenda items came out last week when.
Well, it's 52 because I can't say the school. I can't say the school's name, but a school was invited, and then apparently the principal said no. For right now, said no. So that school is no longer listed as a team in the league. They're at 52 currently, but yeah, I mean, especially with this vote today, it's quite possible that Lafayette and Fort White, Hamilton, Hilliard, all go to either independent or go Pearson Taylor. I mean, what good is it for Pearson Taylor?
And we haven't heard anything out of them of what they, because they've had issues. They've had issues struggling to field a football team over the years.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I get to see them play every year because there are tribals, Crescent City, so they play each other in football. They play in every sport technically, but their football team is basically a middle school team. And they just got Pop Warner a couple years ago, Josh. Like that team, I mean, there are years where they basically have only 16 or 17 players.
Right.
I mean, they even considered going to like 6-man or 8-man a couple years ago.
Yeah. No, I was about to bring that up because they had talked about it here, but
like Pearson Taylor, what good does it do to them to be in a district with Father Lopez, Orlando Christian Prep, and Oviedo Masters Academy?
Well,
when they can either go independent,
yeah,
and play teams similar to them, or go in the Atlantic League. And I was told this a couple years ago. There was discussion about them going to the Atlantic League, but the county basically told them no. But then turned around and they've allowed Port Orange Atlantic, they've allowed Pine Ridge this year. I got the list. I think those are the only two in Volusia County that have moved on to the Atlantic League. But it's funny because the county says, no, you can't go, but then they allow Port Orange Atlantic and Pine Ridge to move on.
Yeah. So, I mean, here, the thing is, and here's the thing, there's a lot, I guess you could say this, there's a lot of unknowns right now, Corey, that we don't know what's going to happen because.
Well, yeah. And Craig said, let me look at my notes. Craig said, hopefully they're going to put something out today to notify all the teams, what they voted on and what's going on, and to give them some time to make some decisions based for their program. I think he said,
and I do have this from someone, a direct source from the FHSAA. I sent a message that could any of these schools be asked to play. I actually sent this to Scott Jameson, who is the FHSAA associate executive director of athletics. So who basically oversees all the sport administration, the sport administrators below him. I actually said, okay, can any of the schools that asked that went to the basically, like example, SSA Atlantic League or even 11-man, any of these schools that be placed back in the state series that left, and like my example was any of the rural schools that wanted to be in 1A because they have a district now. And he said yes. So those schools, some of those
Right. Well, they said that at the very end that teams could come back.
Right, teams could come back and be played for the independent league, but I wanted clarification as in terms, can they come back and play in the state series?
Yes, because the last thing they want to do is kick them out. So, but Craig Damon said he hopes to have something drawn up by the third week in February. Maybe when things will be finalized with the combination of Rule and 1A together, or hopefully teams being put in the independent league.
Well, because by the third week in November, obviously he said he gives a couple of teams a couple of weeks to make the decision of
February, not November.
No, of a couple of weeks of February, and get basically 2 weeks, figure out what you want to do. Go to, hey, do you want to be in the state series? Do you want to be in the independent league, or do you want to go member by sport status, stay in SSA?
And I thought was kind of interesting too. Is I don't remember the guy that said it. Might have been the guy from Masters Academy.
Trevor Berryhill.
Yeah, it might have been him, the baseball coach.
Yes, that's him.
In fact, it was him. I remember. He kind of hinted to there are teams in Orlando and Miami that are independent that play for an independent title within their own city.
Yeah, so like Miami does that already. There's some teams down there that I can have like Ferguson and Varela down in Miami-Dade County. Those are good examples right there to point out. Then you got some teams that have been in Orlando the last couple of years. I think some of them have come back into state series since then. But like Windermere and Colonial, the schools that have struggled there in Orange County for a while, they played the last couple of years independent status. I don't think they had a championship necessarily, but they played each other basically.
Well, and officially they don't play under a different organization.
Correct.
That's what his point was what defines another organization, and he specifically mentioned those two groups. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think the Orlando Independent
they
have a name.
No, they're just part of the Metro Conference, which is they're still members of the FHSAA, full members, and they don't play under the. So I guess what you were basically trying to bring up here, and I think this is what you're going. Correct me if I'm wrong, Corey. But Trevor Berryhill was saying, hey, basically, you're referring more to the members of the SSAA, basically at this point.
Right?
Is that what you're?
I thought it was kind of funny how they only said that word like maybe twice, but. Yet they kept using that one word. I put this in your chat. I never heard of this word, but I heard it like 5 times. Nefarious. I was like, what does that mean? But yeah, I really think nothing really came out of this today other than the temporary hold on the Rule League. They said that it's not going away. I know Bobby John said, well, that's his concern was, if we do this, is it gone for good, or could it come back? And no, they're going to wait till 28 and hopefully bring it back after they.
I hopefully bring it back, but here's my thing, and I feel like, Corey, to me, some of this could have been addressed back in November when the vote was made on the classifications for 6+ rural. Price Harris came up from Madison County and said, hey, a lot of the schools in rural want districts. A lot of the schools want something to play for, which is the district title. Right now, they have nothing to play for. Basically, they had nothing to play for. Basically,
right? And and that was the argument: is school.
They didn't vote it in. They didn't put districts in.
Right.
And that
which we thought was going to happen, but for some reason it didn't.
No, and all of a sudden it was like, no, there's going to be no districts, and it's going to be the same model as it's been the last 2 years. I'd seed 1 through 16 and have a FIT and just do it. And the teams were like, you know what, we're done, we're out, and that's what happened here. And and I feel like had that issue been addressed, would we even had this meeting today about some of this stuff now, having to move what's left of rural into 1A, create an independent league? Do we think we even be here at this point if they brought districts back for rural?
No, because that's what they wanted. And I mean,
now
I also thought it was funny when Ricky Bell was talking.
Let's address that. Let's talk about that. The 80% thing.
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when he was like, well, why don't we just move the team, those teams that find 20 and 25 transfers, Why don't we just move them to 1A?
They're saying more than 5 transfers. We'll just move them in the 1A and leave the rest of the schools around. But the problem is that if you do that to rural schools and move them you got to do that to the rest of them across the board because of it's the open enrollment. You know, kids are transferring all the time.
Look what happened to Popka. The coach leaves, they lose 25 kids, and those 25 kids, now granted, went to different schools. And that's why, like, Okoye got better this year. Wakaiba actually
got better.
Wakaiba didn't get any transfers apparently because they were terrible too. But it helped other Orlando area schools because they got. But I mean, but the thing is, kids are not going to move over until August, and the districts are already set. So I don't see how ever we can. You can't change the districts in August based on the kids that transfer in.
And that's the thing. But what can how do you temper some of this? And my thought is that I know hold on, I've got another message that's coming in. So we didn't hear that the only full member. Okay, so I've got this question from another SSA coach, and I'm trying to I'm going to read it. I'm not going to name the coach or anything like that. Didn't we hear that only full member teams can host FHA events, even in other sports such as SSA football team can't have their volleyball teams host regional or district? So I believe I think that's the case too. Member, if it's a member by, I think they said something like that when they were going through, like, because Trevor Berryhill asked. Sorry to switch it here, Corey, on this one, but Trevor Berryhill asked about what's the difference between being a full member versus member by sport,
right? And they only said the ability to vote and serve on committees. That's the only thing that they said.
They didn't say anything about sports being able to host or anything.
No, nothing. That was the only thing they said because he asked that question, and I believe it was Craig Damon. I'm not 100%.
It was Craig Damon that was trying to answer that question because I think that's who he proposed.
And that's what Craig said. They basically lose the ability to vote and serve on committees.
Okay, so what I want to do. I know they said that, but the question is there anything else that I want to go to, because it should be somewhere. Let me see if this is the FHA handbook. If this has let's do something here because. Okay, Article 3. Okay, so Article 3 defines membership, and that's the thing that I think we should look at, because this was actually revised back in October, the whole handbook. But we can definitely get it down to the point of what the differences are, because I know I'm going to have more questions about this. So I might as well just go ahead and address it. Let me see where it's what page it was. I think it said page 8. Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah, there's obviously also, the applications for membership, the procedures for admittance into. Okay, so the privileges of membership. The privileges of full membership. A full member will enjoy all privileges of membership unless otherwise specifically withheld according to these bylaws. Membership privileges include, but not limited to, the privilege of compete in FHA championships, the privilege to vote in association elections, the privilege to seek election to positions in the FHA governance structure and substructures, and the privilege to make application for and serve as host of multi-school events that require FHA office approval. So actually, yes, full membership privileges give you that ability to host in memberships. But this one, because this is 3.9, this is on page 12 of the FHA handbook, Corey. Privileges of membership by sport, 3.9.2. Privileges of membership by sport. A member by sport will enjoy some privileges of membership. These privileges are included but not limited to the privilege to compete in FHA championships. So I guess that begs the question, maybe, that there is a thing.
If you're in a district and you're a sport by sport team, you win your district, you have the right to host a playoff game. Just because you're a sport by sport member, you've earned that right to win a district title and potentially host a playoff game. You can't say, well, because of some bylaw wrote in 1800 that
1800.
Yes, because we have laws on the Constitution. I remember there used to be a show where it talked dumb laws. You can't have ice cream after 7:00. and that's what it reminds me of. But you can't penalize a volleyball or baseball or softball team for being sport by sport.
I got a better answer. Kevin Fisher, who's he's the assistant AD at Keswick Christian. He just said this. I can say this: currently, our school is a partial member and are able to host state series and regional playoff game matches. So yeah, so the privileges of membership of sport doesn't necessarily apply to not having the privilege of doing those things. They can still do that, but the part of being full member is being able to privilege to compete in association, like be able to vote in association elections, seek election to positions in the FHA governance structure and substructures, and maybe certain multi-sport events, maybe depending on if it's like a third-party event, you might not be able to do that necessarily. Depends. But other than that, that's the big thing, Corey. Man. Now, someone in the comments just mentioned here, Derek Church at 7709 says, if they are starting to become punitive, I could see that being more tightly enforced. And I think they're more referring to the 3.9.2 being more tightly enforced, that they may start enforcing that more because of the vote today. Yeah. But now, for going back to this with the thing, what have you heard from your schools in particular, like Interlochen and Crescent City, in terms of about the vote today? Like, have you heard anything from?
No, I haven't talked to nobody today. I'm at home.
Did you talk to anybody beforehand? If the way that if the vote goes a certain way, was that going to be an issue?
No, because Crescent City had already made up their mind when the districts first came out and they allowed teams. Sorry, I'm plugging my laptop.
Oh no, you're fine. No, go ahead.
Crescent City told me prior to when the districts first came out, not the finalized one, but the first set, that they were on the fence about whether or not they were going to go to the Rural League or they were going to go to the Atlantic League. And, their concerns were, we don't mind going to the Rural League, but we don't want to be in a situation where we're having to play certain schools, and get beat like a drum. So at the end of the day, they chose to go to the Atlantic League,
right?
Because they felt like it was a level playing field, and more teams liked them. And Interlochen was already in it, so that's what they tell because interesting when a team's considering going to the Atlantic League, they call like Eric Gibson. They talk to him like, "Hey, why did you guys make this decision?" By the way, Interlochen is 100% guaranteed in this in the Atlantic League. They're not looking at going back to the FHSAA. He tells them, "Look, we just want a level playing field," and you'll hear that a lot.
Let me stop you right there, Corey. So you're saying that Interlochen is willing to go member by member sports status with the FHSAA?
Yes.
So they're willing to do that.
They will not go back to the FHSAA. Nothing can. The only way Eric told me they would go back is basically, without name dropping, if certain schools were kicked out of the Rural League, and it was more of a level playing field. But I don't foresee that happening. So 99.9% chance that Interlochen will never go back to the SSA in football. Now, they are full-time members in every other sport, well, except for flag football. They're independent. But, and see, Bobby Johns kept saying this, and I'm like, I agree. Like, I hope we're not going this direction where why are we penalizing the volleyball and the baseball and softball teams and the soccer teams if we get rid of
transfers that do happen in those sports?
If we get rid of the Rural League. And and I hope that doesn't happen because, for schools like Brantford, Brantford's going to the Final Four every year in softball. They're going in volleyball. Lafayette has won a couple state titles in volleyball. Trenton's won boys basketball, girls basketball, volleyball, softball.
Yeah.
I don't remember volleyball, but for schools like that, it has been a blessing to be in the Rural League. And I hope that we are only temporarily getting rid of it in football and not getting rid of it in the other sports. Because before the Rural League came along, none of those small towns were winning state titles in any sport because they had to go through North Florida, especially in football. They had to go through North Florida Christian, which is why they created the Rural League. But back then, the small towns were in the same districts and regions with private schools. And so when they created the Rural League, those small town teams only had to go against other small town teams. So it was a fair level playing field.
But now, because of the day and age of open enrollment, transfers happening, school choice, things have changed. What the purpose of the Rural League was intended for 15 years ago when it came about is not what it is now to this day. And now the Rural League, at least the Rural League at this particular moment, is paused for 2 years.
Right.
Now, could it come back in 2 years? Yes. Could it be totally abolished and gone forever? That's also a possibility because they did not take that off the table.
Right.
So it depends on all what's going to, I guess, shake out here as things happen here. But Corey, I want to go. There's something that I know you were agreeing with Bobby Johns on a lot of things, but I feel like this kind of quote, this kind of comment, I feel like goes much deeper than just when he says, "Oh, this is 100." This issue, the issues that were today were on the board was 100% to be blamed on the coaches, and I feel like that's not 1,000% accurate by any means. Is it a part of the issue? Maybe, but you can't say that it's just coaches causing this issue when this is much deeper than just football itself. It's the state laws that has been passed in recent years. It's, again, school choice, open enrollment, things that have happened, the way statutes is, people throwing in the chat saying, hey, start enforcing the 1 year sit out rule. The FHA can't do that anymore because state statute says they can't enforce a 1 year sit out anymore. They basically, kids are allowed to go, as long as they make a legitimate move transfer based upon the rules that are laid forth in the state statute, they can play.
Right.
And I mean, do you feel like maybe blaming the coaches 100% across the board is kind of, is it?
No, you know who I blame? The parents. Because I've always said this. The reason why a kid transfers, two main reasons. One, I call them ring chasers. They leave to go win a state title somewhere else because the school that they are playing at, just an example, I'm not going after any school, but a kid from Inglewood, they know they will never win a state title, especially in football. But if they go to Reigns, they may not win it, but they know they're going to go far in the playoffs, and they may have a good chance.
Mandarin. Yeah, or you know what? Hey, you know what? You know what? Maybe I might go and roll at Bowls, and then
or a GHS kid transfers to Buchholz. You can't blame them because GHS is down and Buchholz has been to the state semifinals.
He's referring to Gainesville High, by the way, people.
7 years in a row, 6 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, they've been in the state semifinals five straight years, and then but hey, then you transfer back to Gainesville High, play basketball because the basketball team is really good.
Well, and in fact, we just found this out recently that a kid from Keystone Heights transferred to Palaca to play football because Palaca hired a coach from Keystone, Coach Lowry, and now that kid is playing basketball back at Keystone. So yes, it does happen. These kids will leave, and technically they changed the rules. You can play football at one school, basketball at another school, and then go play baseball or run track at another school. I have not heard of a kid that transferred 3 times, but it is getting ridiculous. Oh, so number 2, if they're not chasing a title, they are leaving and going to another school because they feel like, well, if I stay at my school, no college recruiters are going to go to my school. But if I go to this other school where they have multiple D1 players, then I'll be noticed more by college recruiters. And so it's either you're chasing a ring or you're chasing a college offer is why kids transfer so much.
And and that's an issue. And I know one of the things that that's frustrating a lot of people, and there's some stuff in obviously the House bill and the Senate bills that are moving. Some of it dealing with coaches' pay, some of it's dealing with some other stuff. Some of the other stuff it being the in-season transfers, and I know there's some stuff in the bills about dealing with basically that would prohibit in-season transfers, transferring in the middle of the season, which we have seen in more recent years. Oh, kid starts at school A, and the next thing you know, 5 weeks in, he's at school B because school A is 0-5, and school B down the street is 5-0, and they're on their way towards the playoff berth.
Yeah,
and that's an issue right there, and because and I just got this message from, again, as a coach from the coach that their football team is in the SSA, and he feels like because of the way what happened with the vote today, Corey, he says he feels that the FHA will start to fully enforce the Rule 3.9.2 regarding the 3.9 about the memberships being either your full member or your sport by sport, and they're going to really enforce the rules basically of what you get with being full member versus what you get being by sport status. So there's I'm
right, but I don't see how that's that big of a deal because I mean, what are you losing by going sports?
Well, actually,
it's minimal.
Actually, no, because a lot of people don't understand. That also includes your access to home campus, which includes basically everything: your scheduling, your dealing with your scheduling, dealing with your contracts, dealing with basically a lot of your stuff in your athletic department.
But
you have to keep that.
But dealing with schools, Josh. There are schools that don't even bother to go on Max Preps and fill out their schedule.
And we're not even talking about Max Preps because the what's on Max Preps with the schedule, everything's supposed to be synced through home campus. So all the official schedules go into home campus, and then they're supposed to be synced to Max Preps. But everything like your school contracts, any of the forms that you submit to the FHSAA, anything like that goes through home campus. Losing a part of your access because of your sports now, sport by sport.
Yeah, but they can still go on Max Preps and do it.
I understand that. That's what I'm thinking. What is concerning some coaches here is what direction does the athletic department and the school administration go? Because at the end of the day, these coaches may want to be in the SSA, but their school administration, their school athletic department may say, you know what, we can't afford risking losing all of this because we need to put football over here.
I think going 10-0 in the independent league, or as opposed to going 0-10 in the FHSAA, where you have no chance of winning anything, but to satisfy their requirements and not going sport by sport, I don't think that makes sense to the majority of schools. If they're looking at what's the best interest of their programs, going sport by sport is not that big of a deal.
I mean, but someone just brought up on here, Derek Church, I hope I'm saying his name right. He said home campus would be a huge issue. Max Preps and home campus serve entirely different purposes. That's the big thing. It would actually be an issue, and that's what I was trying to point out is that. And Kevin Fisher says, "Is that what was discussed today?" I missed the full membership status versus the sport, but that's what they said. Craig Damon. That's what a couple people said. They heard Craig Damon say, "Hey, the ability to be able to host multi."
No, he didn't say that.
But that's what people are saying, that they heard that from him. So
I specifically heard the guy from Masters Academy ask him,
right, correct,
what is the difference between full-time and part-time, basically? And he basically only said the ability to vote and serve on committees.
But this is I'm gonna go ahead and read this particular part. This is from 3.9.1 from the FHA bylaws. Privileges of full membership. A full member will enjoy the privileges of membership unless otherwise specifically withheld. According to these bylaws, the membership privileges include, but not limited to, the privilege to compete in FHA championships, the privilege to vote in association elections, the privilege to seek election to positions of the FHA governance structure and substructures, and the privilege to make application for and serve as host as multi-school events that require FHA office approval. In 3.92, which is the privileges of membership by sport, a member by sport will enjoy some privileges of membership. These privileges include, but are not limited to, the privilege to compete in FHA championships. It doesn't say that they can be able to host multi-sport events. I think that's what these coaches are asking. If my school chooses to go play an SSA for football and go member by sport, that means my school and
the schools will take them to court. The schools will take them to court because you can't say, well, I know you want a district title,
but Corey, state statute allows them to do this.
I know, and I'm saying the schools will take them to court because there's no way you can win a district title and go, sorry, you have to go on the road because you're a non-member.
No, wait, hold on. What they're trying to say, and this is I'm trying to separate this out, Corey. What they're saying for a host of multi-school events that require offers of approval, they're talking about your district tournament. They're not saying you can't go compete for that district title or host an FHSAA playoff game, compete in FHSAA championships. All right, that's separate. They're talking about district tournament, because that has to have the FHSAA office approval. You have to apply to the FHSAA office to be able to host your district tournament. So if you're in that district, you're in a district.
Well,
you can the district title. You can host a playoff game in the regionals. You can host a playoff game in whatever round. It requires for whole be on a on campus site. What I think they're trying to get at is, hey, okay. Host a multi-school event that require official approval. They're talking about the district tournament. Like, okay, I want to host my district tournament for volleyball because my volleyball team has been great and they win state championships nearly every year or something like that.
Right, but
that school now will be taking they will not be able to host that district tournament. They can still compete for that district title. They can still compete for that for the state championship, but they will not be able to host that district tournament. They will have to go somewhere else.
I'm going to explain this to you, because you can be 25-0. Number one team in your state and not host the district tournament in other sports. Because, perfect example, soccer last week had their district tournaments. Basketball is coming up starting on Monday. It is done by the power rankings.
Right, correct. I get that.
So if you're not the number one seed in the majority of districts, because there are some that do predetermined districts, but the majority use the power rankings to determine who hosts the district tournament. So in soccer last week, Josh, the tournament started on Tuesday. Well, Monday was Martin Luther King. Actually, we're talking about 2 weeks now, because that was like 2 weeks ago. But so schools could not even make any arrangements on Monday because it was a national holiday. Nobody knew who was hosting the district soccer tournaments until Sunday, Sunday, 2 days before. So, I mean, these teams had to scramble and find buses and transportation and then load up their concession stands and all this. So teams aren't finding out until literally a couple of days before the tournaments anyway. It doesn't make a big difference whether or not they host or not, because even the teams that hosted were not even ready to host the tournaments because they didn't find out till 2 days before.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother issue in itself, right there. I mean, that's
now basketball. They got it right. Basketball they actually released yesterday, and they sort of released it yesterday. We have, I know Palaca and Interlochen are playing, Josh, in the first round. I do not have a date, a time, or location based on the bracket. Like, why even put it on the bracket if you're not even releasing that information? But this is part of the criticism of the FHSAA was wait till the last minute to do these kind of things. Now, I understand they've been tied down with all this football stuff, but because of this football mess that we have going on, it has affected other sports, basketball, soccer, wrestling, and then it carries on to baseball and softball too, because you back up those sports, it carries on to the next sport. So, and that's why I said, I put in your message, they've been quiet since December. And normally they would tell you, hey, we're having so-and-so board meeting, with the exception of them talking about on social media, hey, we're having, the cheerleading championships are coming up, which I think just happened, wrestling tournaments, the state tournament is going on. They have been absolutely quiet on social media. So something's been brewing. And when I saw the information last week that they were having this an emergency board of directors meeting, that's when I knew somebody's down there. Rainy Lefko girls basketball. Yes. Yeah. We know the dates when it's going to be, but I don't I've got two teams playing each other next week. I don't know where it is, what time it is, and what day it is, because it could be Monday, it could be Tuesday, because they just threw it on the bracket and didn't put any information as far as where it's going to be.
Yeah, and that's a problem for a lot of people. And
Well, imagine that happening in football, where they release the football brackets, but then they don't put any dates or times. Now, granted, I know football always plays on Friday unless you're sharing your stadium like for Thursday or Wednesday or something.
And here's the thing: this could happen with flag football, especially with the not only the district tournaments, because the districts. Okay, well, the last day of the regular season is going to be April 15th, and then the district brackets are going to be out, and you're supposed to be playing. The district tournament is a Monday through Thursday, and then you're waiting for the playoff brackets to come out, and there's 2 days allotted for the regional quarterfinals for flag football this year, and that imagine that. I'm pretty sure the girls flag football are sport one the fastest growing sport been the fastest growing sport in the state and now nationally. That would I'd be honest with you, that would be an embarrassment if they can't figure out the times and the dates.
Yeah.
And I know this is already causing headaches for a lot of people in the other sports. And you're right. There's been some quiet on the forefront. I'm not here to come after anyone personally, or that the process that I'm coming after is the way the process of these things have been done. The way things.
Then someone says hosting is not always based on rankings. It's often decided in our district meetings before the season. Well, that's not exactly true, because yes, there are some districts that do decide who gets to host, but I know with my teams and probably the majority of the state, none of that's determined till the week of when the final rankings come out.
That's when they said we default often to the higher seed hosting, but that is not always that's not a by rules. So and that's what you're probably referring to, is that you don't know because the seeding. But there are some districts that say, hey, we still want to follow the format of, hey, one school hosts the entire district tournament, all the games are played at that particular school. What's been done over the years, then it was more common years ago when obviously before they started doing this more like defaulting to a higher seed, so to speak. Basically, I guess this all boils down to, Corey, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next for the schools in the SSA? What is the SSA going to look like after this?
Well,
could the 52 teams in the SSA Atlantic League all go, and the Atlantic League has gone like that, or leaving maybe?
No, I seriously doubt it, because they even said, Bobby John said, the ones that have already left were the ones that did not want to be in a district. So I don't think anybody comes back.
But here's the problem. Again, your school is a full member status right now for football.
They're coming around to pick it up now.
But your member school is a full member status, but then you're all of a sudden now you got to make a decision, because now you're not. You're sitting over here, your full member status for all your sports, but now you got to make a decision. Do I go member by member sports status and potentially cause some problems for my school because now I don't have access to certain things and I have to go. Basically, it could cause.
Yeah, but if you're still eligible for the playoffs, I don't think that it's such a big deal to be sport by sport, because the goal is to win a district title, make the playoffs, and potentially win a state title. I don't think this behind the scenes stuff, the paperwork, whatever is involved with the max preps and the other thing that you mentioned. I mean, I don't know from the administration side, but to coaches and all that, they just care about winning a conference or district or regional or state title.
But see, Bobby John says, oh, well, the schools that didn't want to be in a district. But my understanding is a lot of those schools did want to win, at least compete for something, and that be a district title.
And so I brought this up. And factually, hopefully they will correct the errors that are still in the district.
Corey, I was going to bring that up because, there hasn't been any updates since December 18th based upon what it says. And we saw 11 districts in 1A, but Craig Damon's saying, hey, we only have 8 districts. So I was like, well, where's the updated list at? Because I want to see what's going on.
Well, and I've been saying this since they came out. Why can't they correct the mistakes that are already in there? Because, for example, you got Umatilla listed in a district with Cocoa and First Academy. Umatilla is 100% committed to the SSA and the Atlantic League.
But I was told that but this is what I was told from a couple of people. It's like, well, they put it on their form that they wanted to be in the state series for football, and then until they tell them otherwise, they have to leave them on there.
But if you know, they put on social media that they have left, and they competed last year, this past fall in the Atlantic League, and did very well. They lost in the semifinals, I believe, to West Nassau. Then you go in there and you delete them out, and because right now that district is Cocoa and First Academy. Who wants to be in that district anyway with Cocoa and First Academy? Then you got, I believe they did take Wildwood out of the rule, but then you got Jay. Jay was listed in there. I don't remember if they still are, but Chipley. There are teams that are in the rule league that are no longer in there, and then not just the rule league, but all spread out over the classifications. Right. There are a bunch of errors still in there, and maybe they're waiting for all this to happen so they can make all the necessary changes. But it's very misleading to have teams placed in a district that are no longer in a district.
No, you got a valid point there, Corey, and
Josh, I'm actually, while I've been talking to you, I've actually been trying to figure out what the districts may look like with the combo.
Well, they may have to create a whole new district with the schools like Williston, Chiefland, Hawthorne.
Right. Yes. And I'm getting to that.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I'll send this to you because it's very interesting what it could look like. But again, I might be throwing it in the trash because I feel like some of these teams are going to leave and go either independent or go to the Atlantic League because based on what happened today, they don't want to be in a district with private schools. I mean, let's face it, Hawthorne, Madison, and Bluntstown. I don't know where they stand as far as going up against private schools, but they're the only three teams that could do well against private schools. Everybody else is chasing for second place, and it probably suits them better to go either independent or go to the Atlantic League.
And that leads a whole lot of decisions.
Because look at some of the private schools.
Yeah,
who's going to compete with True North?
Well, True North's not even a private school; they're a charter school.
Well, okay, but they act like a private.
Well, I mean, fair enough.
Now there's a lot of private schools in 1A that I've never heard of, especially the further south you go.
Well, you don't have Chaminade Madonna, and you don't have Clearwater Central Catholic. Obviously, they're in 2A.
So you still got Lakeland Christian, Victory Christian, Carrollwood.
Yep, Trinity Christian,
Cambridge,
Trinity,
Naples Community School, which has won a state title or played for a state title recently.
Oh, you're thinking of First Baptist, which is the other school, but Naples, the community school has improved, so that you're in the right neighborhood with that.
Evangelical Christian in Fort Myers, I know they played for a state title before.
They've had some decent years. Then you got University Christian, Trinity Christian. I mean, McClay's gotten better, and that's where I was thinking, like Corey, like Madison County and Bluntstown would be thrown into that district over there with the Tallahassee team.
Well, I got Bluntstown in a district with Baker, Northview, and Port St. Joe, but.
Okay.
But yeah, District 2 could be FAMU, McLean, North Florida Christian, and Madison. Now, do you think those teams want to play Madison? Because it's not the same NFC team. McLean and FAMU, okay, but they don't want to play Madison. They don't have to.
Corey, I just got a message from Scott Jameson. I'm going to send him a link. We're going to actually have the FHSAA Associate Executive Director of Athletic Services come on and join us and talk and answer some questions, because I feel like there's a lot here there's so much obviously here. And again, maybe this will get some better clarity of what happened with these votes. That way everybody can understand, especially I know there's a lot of, in about 5 minutes time, we'll be able to bring him on. So I'm going to send him the link right now. And we're going to do that right now. Let me go ahead and see if I got that link still. Okay. Yep. Okay. Got it. All right. Okay. let me send this to Scott Jameson because he just messaged me and I'm sending that now.
No, they already came and picked it up.
So
we missed it.
okay.
Because I thought you did.
All right, let me put you on mute for a moment. All right. So but yes, Scott Jameson will come on here in about 5 minutes. We'll talk to him, answer some questions. But I mean,
Dock the Jaguars.
What?
You can't hear me, so I was trying to say something.
Yeah, thanks. But anyways, yeah, let me see. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, I've been blah blah blah.
Screw the Jaguars. Yeah.
No. The Jaguars are my partners here, so I can't say that, and that's not fair to them. So
okay,
no.
Screw the Bucs, screw the Dolphins.
No, the Bucs are my partners too. You can do that, Corey. By the way, you can't say that. Anyways, I need to while we got a moment here, thank the loyal partners. That includes Jaguars PREP, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Foundation, ScoreStream, BoxOut Sports, NFHS Network, FirstDown PlayBook, and the Florida High School 7v7 Association and Teknovate consulting partners that bring us our shows. We'll be looking at adding a few more partners here in the coming weeks here. I got some things of inquiries out there, but we'll that. And I see Marty Palmer jumps on this.
Yeah, he's been texting me throughout the thing.
This whole thing, but we're gonna have Scott Jameson from the Florida High School Athletic Association jumping on with us and in a few minutes. And I've already sent him the link, and so that way he can jump on, answer some questions, and yeah. Where are the Cowboys? Oh boy.
Well, I was trying to not be impartial, but so when I was making fun of the Jaguars and the Bucs and the Dolphins, I was just
one of them here. This is not that show. This is not. No. This is. I got partnerships. I can't inflame those.
I apologize. I was just making a joke.
I can't inflame those partnerships. Which, speaking of the Jaguars, I will say this real quick. As when I hear girls flag football, as obviously we talked about this briefly, some stuff. But girls flag football has rapidly grown, and the two preseason classics that will happen the week of February 11th through the 14th, and actually the one in the Tampa Bay. We'll talk about that in a moment here, real quick. It's going to go through the 11th through the 15th. They're actually going to do 6 days, or actually a whole 7 days worth of preseason games. They're actually been granted a Sunday exception down in Tampa. Actually, sorry, the 9th through the 14th, 9th through the 15th for the Bucs. So okay, the Jaguars PREP, the Jaguars girls flag football preseason classic will be at the Miller Electric Center February 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. 70 teams will be there between those 4 days for the girls flag football preseason. The Buccaneers, over 100 teams at the Sheas preseason football flag football classic at the One Buck Place, at the Advent Health Training Center, and that'll start Monday the 9th and will go all the way through to Sunday the 15th, the day before regular season games kick off, which actually that Monday the 16th, which is actually the first day of regular season for flag football, Corey. That's President's Day. That's holiday. I don't think many schools are going to be playing that day.
No, in fact, I do a weekly calendar for our teams, and nobody's playing that day. Rightfully so, because it's a holiday.
Yeah, and I think, and I also want to say there's probably no games on the schedule. I can take a look at the Mac. Usually, I can tell right by what Max Preps usually has on
because even the district playoffs start Tuesday, not Monday.
I will just ignore that text message that just came in.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Gosh, we kind of talked about this yesterday on social media since you mentioned flag football. What about, Nebraska becoming the first Power 4 school to offer flag football? Charleston Southern has joined. I was stunned to learn that there are 12 schools who have committed to having flag football, including Mississippi Valley State, Alabama State, Long Island, a school I never heard of called Mercyhurst, Texas, Arlington, I think was one of them. But there are 12, and then locally, I'm hearing JU and UNF could be following soon.
And I wouldn't be surprised if UF follows soon, and they already have a very successful club program at the University of Florida.
And USF too, I'm sure.
UCF and FSU also have those programs as well. And I want to look. Someone said, and I just saw something pop up not too long ago. Yes, this is interesting. The Fiesta Sports Foundation, which is that handles the Fiesta Bowl out in Phoenix.
Yeah, I tweeted that out just while.
Yeah. And Ross Dellinger just tweeted it. It's apparently this is a flag football classic, April 18th and 19th, and they've got some teams. UCF's women's club is going to play in this. The Gators club is going to play in this one. But obviously you got Arizona State. You got in Arizona. You got teams that are club teams that could be emerging as D1 programs here in the next couple of years. This is huge, Corey. This is I know some people asked me 10 years ago when I started doing flag football, why are you covering it? There's no scholarships. I'm like, one day it's coming. There are going to be scholarships. That day has arrived. D1 programs are going to have it. This is great.
Yeah,
it's huge.
And in the state of Florida, we had 3 junior colleges, now rolling down to 2 because apparently Pasco dropped it. I learned that yesterday. I wrote about that in my column about the opportunities these girls are having now because Daytona State has recently added it. Florida Gateway in Lake City. They've only had a program for like 3 years, and they're 3-time national champions.
Right. All right. So I see Scott Jamison jumping in here, so I'm going to go ahead and bring him on here. And
Russ, you can talk to him. I think I need to go off and do
it. I will do that. All right. Appreciate it, Corey. All right. FHSAA's Associate Executive Director of Athletic Services, Scott Jamison, joining us here to talk about what happened today in this board meeting, kind of give a little more FHSAA perspective. So that way, any questions that basically y'all have, drop in the chat. We can get clarification. Scott, first and foremost, obviously, 11-1 vote to fold the rural teams into Class 1A, at least for the next 2 years. What? Because I heard Craig Damon, the executive director, Craig Damon, say that it's right now 1A was down to 8 districts, which I know that when it was initially the final districts came out back in December right before Christmas, it was showing 11 districts. So kind of give us a frame of what's going to happen here now that these teams that are left from rural are going to be folded into 1A, and what that time looks like for schools that, hey, when are we going to find out when is things going to be finalized? Because again, we know that some schools are making decisions based on kids transferring and stuff. And that's going to happen all the time now because of the way the laws are.
Sure. No, great question. Thanks for having me, Josh. Appreciate it. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has, obviously. Today was, some changes that are coming for the state for certain classifications. So we have about 8 districts right now in 1A due to the teams that have chosen to withdraw on our end. We haven't re-released anything because of that. We were still receiving stuff from schools who were kind of on the fence, and schools who have been announced for other leagues and stuff and telling us, well, hold on, we're not sure, we're doing all that. So we were kind of holding off until after this meeting before we released it again. We didn't want to have to continuously put it out. So the timetable would be, we'll probably need a little bit of time to allow schools to meet with their administration, meet to see what they want to do, to make that decision for their school, whether that means going into the independent, which will now offer the new independent league, whether that means coming back to the state series, whether that means leaving. We're going to have to allow a little bit of time for that. I don't want to put a too tight of a timetable on it. I know Mr. Damon mentioned 2 weeks. That would be on the long end, hopefully, of it, because obviously we know the coaches have to make schedules. We know coaches have to get out there and get games. So we're not denying that needs to happen as soon as possible. So we, one of the coaches I've talked to, that I've communicated with, all the rural schools that I talked to, all of them that were remaining, had some tremendously great conversations with the athletic directors and some football coaches. And really opened up a great dialogue with them. My response to them was, we're going to get it done as quickly as possible. My goal will be have it out tomorrow. It's not realistic.
Not realistic, obviously.
Unfortunately, I'd love to have it out on Monday. I don't know that that's realistic. I thought at one point it might be, but I do believe we have to give these schools an opportunity. And if we were to put it out early, we'd probably have to put it out again, and then maybe even again after that. just because I do think there's going to be some movement. So at least allowing a little bit of time, in fairness to the schools that are with us, and maybe in other organizations, to make that determination of what they want to do, what's best for their school. Like Mr. Damon said, we want people to do what's best for their school. And we understand that the FHSAA may not be what's best for their school, and that's okay. We want them to do what's best for them and for their program. And we want them to have an opportunity and some time to talk about that with their administration and be able to make a decision that best fits their school.
Absolutely. I guess in the sense of all this, I know we mentioned that, with all this, because it kind of combines in, and I was hoping maybe someone would ask about this, but I mean, maybe I got a kind of an answer, but, maybe you can provide more of a clarity. Okay, we got the decision, obviously moving rural into 1A, but what does that leave the decisions, especially with some schools with 2A and 3A? Because obviously there's been some teams that have already released schedules, and now all of a sudden here's this change already over here with rural 1A. And what do you tell schools now that may have dropped their schedule, saying could they tell them to be anticipating some changes here because of the votes that happened today?
You're talking 2A and 3A?
Well, 2A and 3A, but I know that some schools may, and then there's also maybe a couple of schools that may say, hey, you know what, the teams that are already trying to decide their schedule, but they decide, hey, we want to go this independent league. We're out of the district now.
Yeah, so there could be some changes, and some coaches I've talked to that have called, and ADs that have called just from 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, and have asked these questions is if there's assistance needing with scheduling, we would ask, for schools to hold off finalizing their schedules until we're able to get these districts out. Again, I know it's not ideal, not what we want to do, but to hold off as long as they can, just because we want to make sure once we get this out that we at least have a framework of what it's going to look like, because there will be some changes probably in 2 and 3A. Now, every rural team that is remaining, the 16 that are there, we may have one or two that may go the independent route and play in the independent league. May have more than that may go. But those will all be in 1A. There will be no rural teams that will be entering 2A or 3A. They will all be placed into 1A.
Okay.
So as far as 2A and 3A go for that, there won't be any changes, but there could be some movement now with this. And that's part of why releasing it tomorrow or Monday probably isn't realistic, because we may get some 2A and 3A schools now that say, hey, we'd like to do this independent option. The sooner we know that, the better. The longer we're waiting, obviously they have that option to go rural all the way up until, go independent until all the way up until a few weeks into the season. But the earlier the better, just for scheduling and we don't want to hang people out to dry, because once there's contracts, then it becomes a little bit messy. But for 2A and 3A, yeah, there'll be some small changes probably there in the districts. It's not going to be wholesale, like adding districts and stuff like it will be for 1A. We anticipate probably, as of now, 10 districts in 1A is what I would guess it's going to look like, if I had to put a number on it. And that's, obviously subject to change depending on the attrition and adding that we get over the next few days and week.
So if anybody wants to ask this, I'll probably go ahead and just ask this now. That way I can nip the question in the bud, kind of, so to speak.
Sure.
The way the playoff brackets could look like in these classifications could be, each classification the playoff brackets could look different based upon the number of districts and the way the regions are set up. Correct? Is that what my understanding is? How
you're talking 1A, 2A, 3A, that kind of stuff? Yeah. Potentially, yes. Okay.
Because just in case anybody wants to ask that question, I know that gets asked a lot and stuff like that. And then I guess the thing that ties into this is the 12-0 vote that for the dealing with the independent status of schools. Obviously you're basically kind of tell people, is it my understanding, the way I'm understanding the way the wording was in the agenda is basically saying, hey, okay, if you're going to be a full member with the FHSAA, you got to abide by our rules with the independent status, or otherwise you got to go member by member, but you got to go sport by sport for membership status. And the membership sport by status, by sport, and so they can play in a different association. Is that correct? And my understanding is basically needing to choose one route or the other.
Yeah, that's correct. So with football, if another association were to play outside of our dates, play by different rules, have different structure, then yes, that would be a necessity if a school is going to play in that other association at this point. And we've kind of allowed it to happen for the last year or so. But, it's reached a point where per policy and with liability and all that kind of stuff, we just have to create that delineation there. Again, we don't want to discourage anybody from doing what's best for their school. This is not about discouraging anybody from doing anything. This is just the nature of how we have to move forward with separating. And now, especially now that we're offering that option of the independent league, it really helps create that delineation of saying, all right, you're either independent with the FHSAA, which allows you this opportunity in this independent league, or your state series with us, or you go no team, which there are quite a few teams that already do that. They play in a different league and they are already no team. And so that would be, and when I say no team, that's just the way they would declare it with us, is that in our minds, they wouldn't have a team with us. So it would not be under our jurisdiction. So whatever association they're playing under would completely have control over that, the rules and regulations as far as that sport goes for that school. Now, any other sports they stay in with us, they're still able to maintain state series. They can still play in the state championships. If they happen to play in a conference-like structure that ends prior to our state series starting, no issues at all. That's not a problem. It's just, again, when it starts to get into going independent to then participate, as I said in the meeting, the word independent at that point does not fit anymore.
And I know there's been some questions. I've gotten some questions from some coaches and stuff to what is the difference? I mean, what is the biggest difference between full membership to member by sport? Because some people are saying, hey, like, you know, if my school goes member by sport, you know, like say the volleyball team ain't able to host a district tournament anymore. That's what they're kind of asking. Is because I know there's certain perks that, you know, obviously comes with full membership versus being member by sport. Obviously, I know the home campus is a big thing that people talk about, you know, the access and stuff like that. But, you know, one of the things I'm reading here is like the privileges of full membership was like host of multi-school events that require official office approval. Membership by sport, you know, you get some privileges, but not limited to privilege. Obviously, you mentioned the state series and being able to compete for district title and state championships.
Yeah, so being able to participate in the state series, it would not restrict a school from doing district tournaments and stuff like that within the state series. That would be for regular season, large scale events that are going on, you know, sanctioned events during the season and everything like that. Really, the main difference, as you already alluded to, is that the access to home campus for that sport, just that sport in general, would be taken. And then the ability to sit on committees or governance committees to vote in elections would also not be available to those member by sports. But that's essentially where the differences lie.
So maybe use as a case example. Okay, school A goes to another association for football. Those other sports that are left are FHA by sport members, but those by sport members like volleyball, they wouldn't be able to sit on their volleyball advisory committee because they're not a full member at that point.
That's correct.
Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so that makes sense there. So that kind of gives a little bit of addressing of what some questions that have been had, you know, during the last few hours. Like, okay, how does this read out? So it's
great questions. It's great questions. Yeah, no, that you nailed it. I mean, if it's any committees like that are a part of the governance structure of our association, you have to be a full member to take part in that, to run for those elections, to be able to sit on those seats and to vote. If we have voting for the elections, for example, for those seats or any other votes that take place, those would be the main two things.
And that would also include and would that also be included be able to, the ability to be able to, you know, be able to sit on the board of directors too, correct?
That's correct.
So, okay, so that clears that up. So, hey, those are the key differences, you know, and that, you know, for a lot of schools, they do have to make a decision here at this point. It's to do we keep full membership status or do we go member by sport? And you obviously alluded to it already. Some schools have already done that. And they had done that before this even came about, that they already decided to go by sport for member status.
That's right. Yeah, we have schools that have already done that, and they've been functioning and no problem. So.
No, absolutely. And I guess at this particular point now, with the rural classification gone, does that leave I guess that some people were asking me, like, what happens with because the villages hosted the rural state championships the last couple of years, FIT, what has happened with all that? Some people are asking about open division, and I'm like, well, those are good questions, but I don't know the answers to them.
Yeah, so the open division will be addressed at one of the next few board meetings. There'll be some things that'll be brought there and lots of discussion that'll be had. We had some great discussion at the football advisory meeting that we appreciate Shelton Cruz and the FHSAA hosting that meeting there. It was awesome. We had the entire committee was there, plus probably 30 or 40 coaches It was fantastic. A lot of good discussion about the open division. Lots of great stuff that went on there. So open divisions, it's coming, it's happening. It's just a matter of what the final product looks like. I do believe there's going to be some tweaking, whether that's by sport or whether it's just football or whether it's currently the setup is that it's a 8-team double elimination tournament. I don't believe that's going to stay in place, especially for football. I don't know that a double elimination tournament makes sense for football. So I do think that what's going to be brought will probably look a little different, whether it's 8 teams, 12 teams. Again, that's something this has been a 2-year long discussion. We've been going to committees with it. We've gotten lots of feedback. And so it'll be something that we're basing off of the feedback we've gotten from the schools, from the coaches, from the ADs, as far as the open division goes. As far as the rural division, with the villages, it's unfortunate that the rural division went this direction. It is what it is. At this point, we're adjusting the way we need to adjust. I think I'll echo Mr. Damon's statements. We hope to see the rural division back in 2 years. We'd love to have it back. I personally believe there's a place for it. I think it is something that was worked hard for almost 20 years ago to make this happen. And I do believe there's a place for it. I do believe it's important. And hopefully the schools feel the same way and we can move in that direction again. And, it gives us 2 years to kind of see how things play out, how this independent league plays out and give us more information so that we have everything we need to, again, try to do the best we can to bring that back. And we'll work with everybody who's, has a vested interest in it and doing what we can to bring it back. As far as the villages, that's a discussion we'll have to have here internally and with them to see where we go, since there's no longer games there. The idea would still be to have some sort of a fit tournament in the state series, since that was voted in. So, maybe we offer the fit opportunity there to the villages. That's something we'll have to discuss.
No, absolutely here. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, because I know this was on this was something that did come out of the football advisory, and was the ADAC was about going straight 100% max preps rankings. What's the movement on that from yesterday's ADAC meeting, that the athletic directors, for people not wanting to know the lingo that we're all using here, is that going towards the full board now for a change in the rankings model for football, or are we kind of sitting there maybe not?
I can tell you exactly what vote it received yesterday if you give me like 2 seconds.
I'll give you 2 seconds, because honestly, I know that some people, I've had people on our Florida HS football message boards asking about this, in particular. Some people are leery about using max press rankings, but I'm like, well, I mean, the FHSAA ranking is a derivative of the max press ranking. There's just differences, but some people say, hey, the max press rankings seem to be much better. Even coaches will say, hey, this is why it came out of the football advisory committee into the ADAC.
Well, the first thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to argue with the football coaches, because they know more than me when it comes to that. Seriously, that's not even, it's I can laugh about it, we can laugh about it, but they know more than I do when it comes to that stuff. So, a couple of years ago when the change was made and the idea was to go max preps, the issue with that was that the board was a few different things as far as forfeitures, and they use a predictive model. That predictive model is no longer used. They actually use a panel. There's actually a panel of individuals. So there is a human element in the max preps polls now in the national poll, which does affect obviously the state polls. So the football advisory committee put forth an item to move to 100% max preps, which would include forfeitures not counting anymore in the rankings. So you could potentially see a team that has to forfeit games that's has a record that may not indicate whether they should be in the rankings, but they're still a really, really good football team. And so their ranking will not be affected by those forfeits. It'll be something we'll have to look at internally to see why did they get those forfeits, and do they need to still be in the state series kind of a situation. But the recommendation yesterday from the AAC was 13-1 in favor of moving forward with 100% max preps. That will now go to the board of directors in either February or April for implementation next year. So that will be something that would go in next year. Again, we felt that it was, we typically have a 2-year process. This is a special case where the rankings we had in place changed, ownership changed of the company, which changed the way they did the rankings. And so we felt it was appropriate to go ahead and say, all right, let's allow for the coaches, since this has changed and since there are some differences there that we were not anticipating, allow the coaches to have an opportunity to say, all right, do we want to continue in this direction, or do we want to shift gears while we have the opportunity to shift gears in kind of a transition period for max preps? They are wanting to go in that direction. Obviously, that'll be up to the board to make that final determination, but the coaches were in favor of it. And then again, to the tune of 13-1 yesterday, the ADAC was also in favor of it.
That is good news to hear, and that front, to understand that, hey, there's a change. Obviously, maybe some less complaints from the coaches about the rankings process going forward. They're like, hey, at least but I guess at the end of the day, no ranking system is ever going to be perfect, and a lot of ranking systems, you never know what the exact formula is going to be. You just know what the components are going to be, and at the end of the day, again, nothing's going to ever be perfect. That's what I should say here. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. And in a perfect world, well, we wouldn't be here having these meetings.
That's right. That's right.
But I think that's all the questions I've got right now, Scott. I mean, at this particular point, you're saying that the timeline right now, probably at least 2 to 3 weeks before we finally get more of what the refinalized districts are going to look like.
Mr. Damon said 2 weeks. He gave a timetable of 2 weeks. I think that is a safe long end of it. If we can get it out sooner, we will. If we're confident and comfortable that we've given schools an opportunity to make those decisions for themselves and what's in the best interest of their student athletes. And then if we can put something out we're comfortable with prior to 2 weeks, we will, but we'd like to put a 2-week timetable on ourselves to try to make this happen. That will be the goal, again, just for our coaches and for their sanity of being able to put those schedules together.
And absolutely here. And with that said, if you all got questions after watching this, listening to this, you can reach out to Scott himself at sjameson at FHSAA.org, or you can call the 352-372-9551, and his extension is 180. So that way if you got more questions for Scott, he's going to answer for them, because he does. He does answer my questions, and I know he answers other questions as well. And I know they get a lot of questions each day, and especially they'll probably have a lot more coming through. And, and also I do believe that Craig Damon they're going to do a social media thing. So he'll explain it even further. So
he's been recording it. Yep. And my direct number is 352 to my office is 352-681-8474. That rings straight through to my cell phone and to my office. And I'm happy. Josh knows I texted him and said, hey, you want me to come on? I'm happy to answer questions. I'll never dodge a question or an opportunity to answer questions. I'm happy to do that. I love talking to coaches, even when they're fired up. That means they're passionate. It means they care. So that makes me happy.
A lot of people are fired up today. A lot of people are fired up, and
that's okay. Being fired up is okay. We can all, in my opinion, speak respectfully, and we all, at the end of the day, we all want what's best for the kids. And so that's what we're all marching to the same drumbeat for that. And as long as we all know that, I think we can have some nice civilized conversations. We always have great conversations. And if you want to have me on, if you get a whole list of questions you want me to come on and answer, I'd be happy.
We'll do that again, because I'd rather have these conversations and be able to put this out there to the people, not because we have obviously a lot of coaches. We do have the athletes following, but we also have a lot of parents and, community members out there that are like, hey, what's going on here? I don't understand this. Well,
we don't want you guys to have to guess. We don't want you to have to guess and speculate and all that kind of stuff. And we'll, as long as we can give you the answers and we're able to, and it's something that is, something that's a known quantity for us, we will let you know. We'll be upfront with it. And, we want to, again, we want to do what's best for the kids at the end of the day. And that's what it's all about. And that's why we're all here. So we appreciate you, Josh, for everything you do.
No, absolutely. Scott, appreciate you being able to come on and talk with us for a few minutes. And hopefully that some of these questions that y'all have had during the last few hours, they've been answered. And if you're going back and watching this or listening to this, you got some answers. And then Craig Damon will have his social media video coming out on the FHSAA handles later on the day, or I think today is, but for here on Thursday afternoon, that stuff will be out, and then people will be able to, again, call the FHSAA office if you got more questions, or email.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
All right. Well, Scott Jameson, that is Scott Jameson from the FHSAA office, the Associate Executive Director of Athletic Services. Scott, thank you so much for joining us here. All right. Well, we appreciate Scott Jameson joining us here on the Florida HS Football Show here on our YouTube feed, and also on our podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. We definitely appreciate that. We appreciate Corey Davis also jumping on to talk about it as well, because Corey has had a lot of teams in his area, or teams that are connected to, that have been playing in the Sunshine State Athletic Association. We've reached out to the Sunshine State Athletic Association. We did have a couple messages go back and forth trying to figure out if we can get anybody on from the Sunshine State Athletic Association. I think right now we may not get that until for another show, because there's a lot of questions to be answered. There's a lot of things that need to be figured out, and what's going to happen now, what direction's going to happen because of this decision. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen here now for these schools in the Sunshine State Athletic Association as to, do they retain their full membership FHSAA, or, as you heard Scott Jameson just say, they're gonna, that some schools have already done this. They did this way before this vote even came around, that they've gone by sport member status, and so their schools can play in the in the SSA for football, or for a different sport, and keep FHSAA membership status for all their other sports. So that's pretty much the thing. And hopefully that answers your questions. But if y'all got any questions, you can drop me a line at FLAHS Football on X/Twitter, or you can shoot me an email, joshua.wilson@FloridaHS Football, and we can answer those questions or bring those questions to Scott. Or if we got questions for the SSA in particular, we'll bring those questions to them, and hopefully we'll be able to get a representative from the Sunshine State Athletic Association to join us here on the Florida HS Football Show. All right. With that said, we're going to wrap this up here on the Florida HS Football Show. We definitely appreciate everybody that's been joining us here for the last 3.5 hours here on the show here, talking about everything that has transpired today with the FHA Board of Directors meeting. Again, we appreciate Scott Jameson joining us here from the Florida High School Athletic Association, and Corey Davis from the Palatka Daily News. We're going to sign off, and thank you, everybody, and we'll see you again soon here on the Florida HS Football Show, here on our YouTube platform and on our podcast platforms, including Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Amazon. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.